Chapter 274. Yi Dingdang had already been sent to the emergency room, while Tang Zhang and the other team members were restlessly waiting outside. Everyone's mood was very gloomy, especially when they saw the blood on Tang Zhang's body. Everyone had a feeling of palpitations. Free novel portal. The shock that this class leader's actions had caused to their hearts was truly unimaginable. However, when they thought of the actions of those terrorists, they felt that it was especially satisfying. Shouldn't terrorists die? Of course they should. Tang Zhang had killed so many people, but not only did they not feel any disgust towards Tang Zhang, they instead felt that he was like an ancient chivalrous swordsman. Seeing injustice on the road, he righteously took action. The three members of room 502 looked at each other. Zhou Yang pushed Wang Shiji. You are the boss, go and persuade third brother. We are very worried about him with his stern face and murderous aura. Sinosaurus also did not dare to provoke Tang Zhang. Although he was usually sloppy, when he saw Tang Zhang like this, his heart palpitated a little. As the boss of the dormitory, Wang Shiji could only take on this heavy responsibility. He took a few deep breaths to muster up his courage and sat beside Tang Zhang, advising, "Third brother, don't worry, Yi Dingdang will definitely be fine. Moreover, it's all thanks to you that we were able to destroy the stronghold of this terrorist organization and prevent more people from getting injured. You are a great contributor, and Yi Dingdang is also a great contributor." Tang Zhang raised his head, glanced at him, and laughed self-deprecatingly. What qualifications do I have to say that I am a meritorious person? I am your class leader, and I did not protect you well. This is my responsibility. Wang Shiji shook his head and said, "This is an emergency, how can I blame you? You have already done very well." The others all nodded in agreement. Yes, Tang Zhang, we all have to thank you. If not for you, we would have already died in the hands of those terrorists. Meritorious person. Do you need me to hold a celebratory feast for you? A cold voice rang out, only to see Marshall leading a few people over in large strides. Instructor Wu. Everyone stood up one after another, only Tang Zhang gave her a bland glance, not moving at all. Wu coldly snorted and said, "Tang Zhang, you are really amazing. You killed all those important people, but only left behind a bunch of small fries. If you want to dig out more information from them, it will be harder than ascending to the heavens. How do you think we should report on this mission?" Originally, he thought that he had dug up the nest of the terrorist organization, but now it seemed that everything was just a dream. All the clues were cut off here. If Tang Zhang hadn't killed all the important people, this would have been a big hole in the terrorist organization. They could have followed the vine to the melon and really wiped out the other party. Wu was not a soldier, but this time, she was ordered by the sect master to carry out a mission in the army. This time, leading the newcomers and digging out this terrorist organization was her most important mission. However, all of this was completely disrupted by Tang Zhang. How could she not be angry? Especially the aura that Tang Zhang had displayed earlier, it had caused her heart to be in a mess. The more she pondered over this aura, the more she felt a sense of disgust for no reason. This was her strength. As a pre-celestial martial artist, although she had lost her memories of the ordinary balance, she had left behind some things, such as a mysterious feeling. Previously, Tang Zhang's performance was not that outstanding, so this feeling was not that strong. However, this time, Tang Zhang's murderous look finally made her feel a trace of a familiar aura. Tang Zhang was originally very careful, but he did not expect that Marshall would also come to this small border city, so he did not restrain his aura in time and was discovered by Marshall just like that. Marshall had already confirmed repeatedly that Tang Zhang was definitely not a martial artist, so his superb skills were extraordinary. If he was not a martial artist, then his skills would have been tempered through countless battles. But Tang Zhang was also a university student. How was this possible? In short, his body was filled with a mysterious sense of contradiction. Therefore, Marshall paid special attention to him and specially came to the hospital. Firstly, it was to visit Yidingdong's injuries. The big shots above were very concerned about Yidingdong's injuries. Secondly, it was to investigate Tang Zheng's background once again, and thirdly, it was to see if there was any way to remedy this mission. Tang Zheng did not even raise his head as he coldly said, "You can do whatever you want." A few people from Class 2 followed behind Wu. Takashi did not say anything, but the others could not help but shout, "Tang Zheng, how can you speak to Instructor Wu like that? I don't need you to teach me how to speak." Tang Zheng unhappily choked. The two classes were originally in a competitive relationship. This time, Class 1 was the first to discover the stronghold of the terrorist organization, causing the people of Class 2 to be in a very passive position. After Takashi led Class 2 to this small city, he stayed in the most high-end hotel. Then, he sent out his team members to search for the whereabouts of the terrorist organization, while he stayed in the hotel to enjoy himself. When the terrorist attack happened, their class did not collect much useful information. However, they heard that Class 1 had a bountiful harvest and even participated in the capture of the large army. This made the people of Class 2 very unconvinced, and also made Takashi very unhappy. He felt that he had lost face in front of his teammates, but there was nothing he could do. Later on, he heard that Tang Zheng actually disregarded orders and took the initiative to attack, causing Yi Dingdang to be severely injured. He felt that the chance to turn the tables had come, so he hurriedly found Marshall and went to the hospital with her to visit Yi Dingdang. Actually, he wanted to see Tang Zheng make a fool of himself. Seeing Tang Zheng's vexed expression, Takashi's face was expressionless, but his heart was already blooming with joy. "Tang Zheng, you also have a day like this. Back then, I wasn't your match, and you played with me, causing me to lose all my face in front of Yi Dingdang. Now, I want to return all the grievances I suffered to you. I really hope that Yi Dingdang dies this time, then you will be nailed to the pillar of shame." A vicious look flashed past Takashi's eyes. No one knew what he was thinking, because he was no longer the original Takashi. The original Takashi was tall and strong. He thought that he was smart, but in fact, he was extremely stupid. He only knew how to bully his classmates, bully the weak and fear the strong. After meeting Tang Zheng, this tough guy, he hid in a corner and no longer dared to raise his head to resist. Now, this Takashi had been completely reborn. His personality had undergone an earth-shattering change, because he was not only Takashi, but had also fused with another person's personality. Tang Zheng had also seen this person before, and had even killed him with his own hands. This person was Daoist Tianji's disciple, the cultivator who had kidnapped Mu Hongyan and Nana. In that small alley, Tang Zheng had used true fire to defeat him by surprise, and then killed him. At that time, Takashi had seen this scene with his own eyes from a faraway car, and was scared out of his wits. After Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan left, he quietly went to the corpse, but he did not expect that the remnant of the corpse's divine sense would parasitize his body, and then slowly fuse with Takashi's divine sense, evolving into a new Takashi. This Takashi was good at enduring patiently, and was vicious and merciless. He was like a poisonous snake eyeing Tang Zheng covetously from the side, and there were many times when he wanted to kill Tang Zheng. But after weighing the pros and cons, he realized that he was not Tang Zheng's opponent, and prematurely exposing himself would only cause him to die again. Then he would not be as lucky as the first time, and as long as he was exposed, Tang Zheng would definitely kill him, and he would truly kill him. Takashi was well aware of this point, so he chose to endure. At the same time, he went to the place where Daoist Tianji had hidden the secret manuals, and found Daoist Tianji's most treasured secret manuals. This was something that Daoist Tianji would not normally let him see. Even though he was Daoist Tianji's disciple, Daoist Tianji was very stingy when it came to imparting cultivation techniques, and would not pass everything to his disciple, so as to avoid starving the master to death. This was also the reason why when Tang Jing killed Daoist Tianji, he went to the cave to search for his belongings but found nothing. No matter what, Tang Jing would never have guessed that all of this was done by Takashi. It must be known that when Takashi found out that his master had been killed by Tang Jing, he was so terrified that he could not live without fear. All day long, he hid in the corner of the classroom, not daring to look at Tang Jing for fear of attracting his attention. After confirming that Tang Jing would not pay attention to him, he began to cultivate diligently, and from the secret manuals, he found a secret method to hide his strength, so to outsiders, and even to Tang Jing, he was just an ordinary person. He studied diligently while cultivating. Not only did his grades improve rapidly, but his cultivation also increased greatly. It seemed that after fusing with Takashi, his body had been transformed, making it suitable for cultivation. He was overjoyed, hoping that one day he would be able to avenge himself and kill Tang Jing. During the college entrance exam, he relied on his identity as a cultivator to obtain third place. While Tang Jing was unwilling to show his face, he enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. In the past, he had followed Daoist Tianji to hide from place to place, and he had had enough of that kind of life. Now that he found that there was another way to live, he gladly endured it. His ambitions were great, and he was no longer limited to the small matters of the past. He wanted to use his identity as a cultivator to create a big blue sky. He actively used the opportunity of exposure to come into contact with many important figures, creating his own network. And this time, he wanted to use this opportunity to establish a good relationship with the military, so that in the future they would be able to help him. Therefore, he worked especially hard during the military training, striving to obtain the military's appreciation. Only, he did not think that he and Tang Jing would meet on a narrow path, and become competitors. Especially in this mission, Tang Jing was one step ahead of him in discovering information about the terrorists, which made him furious. Hearing his own team members provoking Tang Jing, Takashi did not stop them, but instead gave a meaningful glance to his team members. The others understood and mocked, "Yo, you don't have much ability, but your temper is quite big. You caused your team members to be injured. What qualifications do you have to be the class monitor? If I were you, I would buy a piece of tofu and kill myself." Everyone else also agreed. Sinosaurus and the others' faces suddenly changed, and they were furious. They rushed up and aggressively roared, "Little brat, what did you say? You want to be beaten? Let's fight. Who's afraid of who? Can't we talk about it?" With Takashi's support, the members of Class 2 were full of vigor, eager to give it a try. Chapter 275. Shut up. Suddenly, Marshall growled. No one dared to speak anymore. They could only stare at each other angrily. "Fairy, do you still want to fight in front of me?" Marshall asked sternly. Takashi sneered in his heart, but advised in a good voice, "Everyone, stop talking about Tang Jing. Although it was because of his rashness that Yi Dingdang was injured, I think he didn't want to do that in his heart. I just hope that he won't be so reckless in the future." Takashi's words seemed to be helping Tang Jing out of the predicament, but in reality, he was hiding a malicious intent. He deliberately said that it was because of his rashness that Yi Dingdang was injured. Tang Jing suddenly raised his head and stared straight at Takashi. This brat was much smarter than before, he actually knew how to put a spear in his words. Takashi smiled faintly at Tang Jing. Tang Jing coldly snorted and ignored the other party. Wu said sternly, "Tang Jing, I have already decided to let you rest for a while. Don't worry about this matter anymore." Sinosaurus and the others were indignant and said, "Why? Why?" "It's because he didn't listen to orders and acted on his own accord that caused this situation. All the clues have been cut off." Marshall replied. "Then we also need to rest for a while. You guys can slowly investigate. I won't serve you anymore." I'm a student, not a soldier. If you have the guts, just shoot me. Sinosaurus roared, then pointed to his own head, completely fearless. Takashi's mouth curled up into an imperceptible sneer. Go ahead and cause trouble. The more you guys cause trouble, the more unlucky Tangjing is, the happier I will be. The others were also excited, especially the members of 502. Zhou Yang and Wang Shiji also stood beside Tangjing without hesitation, and said, Right, we won't serve you anymore. How can you accuse us like this? Third brother risked his life for this result. Guosu and Wang Tong looked at each other and stood up without hesitation. We will stand with Tangjing. The other three also stood on Tangjing's side without hesitation. Looking at this group of people, Takashi was a little stunned. He never thought that Tangjing would have such high prestige. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Wu's face was ashen as he said, Do you want a rebel? Everyone was speechless, but there was a sense of unwillingness between their brows. Marshall stared at Tangjing and said, If your people don't want to work anymore, then scram back. I don't need such people can only drag me down. Sinosaurus and the others hesitated for a moment before saying resolutely, Fine, we'll leave. We won't do it. Tangjing looked at everyone, an indescribable feeling welled up in his heart, and said, Don't mess around. Everyone trembled. Sinosaurus said indignantly, Oh, 3, if they don't recognize our efforts, then what are we still doing here? Tangjing understood that these people were not like him. If they had the recognition of the army, it would definitely be beneficial for them in the future. He could not be so selfish as to ignore the interests of others for himself. Don't say any more, you guys continue with your mission. Instructor Wu, don't you want me to quit? I'll do as you wish, I'll quit. Tangjing said. OL3, squad leader. The others shouted, wanting to stop him. Tangjing waved his hand, indicating that they should not try to persuade him, and said, I have already made up my mind. Takashi was secretly delighted in his heart. Tangjing, oh Tangjing, you think you're smart, without you, the mission this time would be mine, ha. Alright, since that's the case, I'll report it to the higher-ups. You should return to the capital immediately. Marshall said without any trace of politeness. Tangjing was not angry, but instead heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he did not do anything under Marshall's nose, he would be even safer. As for whether he had contributed or not, he did not care. The reason he came to the army to gain experience was to increase his own strength. Now that there was an anomaly like Marshall, his plan was obviously not going to work. Moreover, he had obtained even more important information from the terrorist old man's mind. He still had more things to do. I want to stay behind to take care of Yi Dingdang. I'm not in a hurry to return to the capital. Tangjing said. Up to you. Then, he stared at the 8 people in Class 1 and said, Next, you will all be merged into Class 2 and led by Takashi. If I hear anyone disobeying orders, don't blame me for being impolite. Sinosaurus and the others were indignant, but when they saw the look in Tangjing's eyes, they suppressed their anger and did not flare up. What are you arguing about? This is a hospital. Who is the patient's family? Suddenly, the door to the emergency room opened. The doctor walked out and scolded unhappily. Tangjing hurriedly walked over and said, I'm her friend. May I ask how she is? The patient is out of danger, but she still needs to be hospitalized for observation and treatment. The doctor said. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. As long as there was no danger to their lives, it was a blessing in disguise. To be able to survive such a close encounter with an explosion was already considered lucky. Actually, this was not a fluke. After all, Yi Dingdang was a martial artist of the 9th stage of the body refining stage. The moment before the explosion, she had already mobilized all the inner strength in her body to protect the vital parts of her body. Moreover, the explosion this time did not have steel balls or other objects. Instead, it was a pure explosion. The power of the explosion was incomparable to the one outside the shopping mall. Yi Dingdang was pushed out. Her face was pale and she had already woken up. She turned her head to look at the crowd outside the door and weakly asked, "How's the operation?" "Don't worry, it's already over." Tang Jing comforted her. Yi Dingdang heaved a sigh of relief but revealed a look of guilt. "I'm sorry. This time I didn't do a good job and caused everyone to worry." Tang Jing shook his head and said, "This is not your fault. You are a hero. If you did not risk your life to block the shockwave, others would have been injured. Therefore, you saved others." Yi Dingdang was a little embarrassed. Since she was young, she had a hero complex. Therefore, her ideal partner was a hero. Now that she was actually called a hero by Tang Jing, she could not help but have mixed feelings. Really? She found it hard to believe. Of course it's true. The others nodded their heads solemnly. Dingdang, you saved everyone. If you are not a hero, who else would dare to call themselves a hero? Yi Dingdang's face flushed red. All right, the rest of you follow me. Tang Jing, you stay in the hospital to take care of Yi Dingdang. Wu said coldly. The others reluctantly looked at Tang Jing, especially the members of 502 whose eyes were red. They said, "Oh well, for 3. Tang Jing waved his hand and said, "Continue with the mission." The few of them had no choice but to nod. Yi Dingdang saw that something was wrong and hurriedly asked, "What's going on?" Zhou Yan couldn't wait to say, "They won't let OL-3 carry out the mission." What? Yi Dingdang was shocked. She struggled to sit up but frowned in pain. Seeing this, the doctor hurriedly said, "The patient cannot move around. Otherwise, it will affect the wound. The one in pain is you." Tang Jing immediately pressed down on Yi Dingdang and said, "Don't be agitated. Recuperate well. I'll accompany you in the hospital." Yi Dingdang said indignantly, "Why didn't I let you carry out the mission? This time, it was clearly you who discovered the terrorists, and it was also you who found the clues. Furthermore, if it wasn't for your prompt decision, those terrorists would have slipped away and launched the first round of attacks. At that time, the casualties would have been even greater." Yi Dingdang's question was powerful and resounding. It was also the thoughts of the rest of the class as they all looked at Instructor Wu. Wu's expression did not change in the slightest as he coldly said, "He has done a lot of things, but he has also ruined all of our plans. He has killed all of the leaders of the terrorists, leaving behind a few small fries, causing our plan to fail completely. He will have to pay the price for this. Kill all the leaders." Yi Dingdang was shocked. He looked at Tang Jing suspiciously. Tang Jing said calmly, "Those people deserve to die. They can only be a scourge if they stay in this world." Zhou Yan explained, "At that time, San saw that Yi Dingdang was injured by the explosion and was stimulated. That was why he started a massacre." No matter who it is, no matter what the reason is, he has to pay the price for ruining our plan. There is no room for maneuver," Wu said straightforwardly. When Yi Dingdang heard these words, there was only one voice that echoed in his heart. Tang Jing actually did not hesitate to kill for him. Girls all had hero complexes, and Yi Dingdang was even more so. Wasn't it just a girl's fantasy to kill in all directions in anger for a beauty? Tang Jing had done it for her. Yi Dingdang's heart was in chaos. She did not know what to say. Only when everyone else had left did she regain her senses, but when she realized that only Tang Jing was by her side, she felt embarrassed for the first time, and finally mustered up the courage to look at him. Then, she couldn't help but recall the scene in the shopping mall. His heroic image was deeply imprinted in her heart. Didn't her family always want her to pursue Tang Jing? In the past, she thought that this was an absurd idea, but now she realized that Tang Jing was actually in line with the image of the lover of her dreams. What should I do? Do I really have to chase after him? Her heart was in chaos, and her face turned even redder. Seeing that Tang Jing was looking at her, she quickly averted her gaze. Tang Jing looked at her in surprise and asked, "Your face is so red, are you feeling unwell somewhere?" "No," Yi Ding Dang said in a mosquito-like voice. "Then why are you blushing?" Tang Jing asked curiously. Yi Ding Dang was usually carefree, so he would not have such a girly attitude. Yi Ding Dang really wanted to roll her eyes at him. Was there anyone who would ask someone so directly? Couldn't he see that she was embarrassed? Tang Jing really did not know that she was embarrassed. Seeing that her complexion was getting better, he couldn't help but touch her forehead and said, "You don't have a fever. Do you want me to find a doctor to take a look?" "You're the one with a fever," Yi Ding Dang said in a bad mood. "This time you were eliminated." "I'm sorry, I didn't think that things would turn out like this." Tang Jing shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, "What does that have to do with you? It's me who doesn't want to stay here anymore. I still like to live a free and unrestrained life." Tang Jing was speaking the truth. In these 10 days of living in the military camp, he could also follow orders, but in his heart, there was always a voice calling out to him. He always yearned for a free and unrestrained life. Chapter 276. Yi Ding Dang did not believe that he liked to be free and unrestrained. She thought that he was deliberately saying these words to comfort her. She was even more excited and grateful in her heart, and her face was as red as an apple. "Tang Jing, thank you." She held it in for a long time before saying softly. Tang Jing was actually a little unable to adapt to her gentleness, and asked uncertainly, "Are you really all right?" "Of course I'm fine." "All right, if you're fine, then I'll be leaving first," Tang Jing said as he heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Ding Dang said in surprise, "Didn't you say you were going to stay with me?" Tang Jing said, "Aren't you fine now?" "I have something to do," Yi Ding Dang said snappily. It was too unkind of him to want to leave her behind so quickly. "What's the matter?" My body hurts, I'm not feeling well," Yi Ding Dang said after holding it in for a long time. "Then I'll go call the doctor." "You're not allowed to go." Yi Ding Dang hurriedly stopped him. Tang Jing was baffled. "Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? How can I not call the doctor?" If Yi Ding Dang wasn't unable to move, she would definitely want to kick him away. "I'm a patient, can't you stay with me?" "But I'm pressed for time." "Pressed? What else do you want to do?" Yi Ding Dang looked at him suspiciously. Tang Jing cursed inwardly, he had actually let it slip. The information in the old man's mind was extremely urgent, so he did not dare to delay any longer. If he went too late and the other terrorists received the news and retreated, then even if he rushed to that place, it would already be too late. "Nothing," Tang Jing said perfunctorily. Yi Ding Dang looked at him suspiciously, snorted, and said, "So mysterious, I don't know what you're up to." "What the hell can I do?" "Well, no matter what you do, I can't control you in my current state anyway. But you have to stay with me in the hospital today." "What if I have something urgent and I don't have a familiar person with me?" Yi Ding Dang requested. Tang Jing was right. After all, Yi Ding Dang was a girl. Moreover, she needed someone to take care of her. Seeing that he did not say a word, Yi Ding Dang did not know what he was thinking. For the first time, she also fell silent. Tang Jing was thinking about his next plan, so he did not say anything. Suddenly, the room became strangely quiet. Yi Ding Dang glanced at Tang Jing from time to time. She found that he was actually quite handsome and had a special flavor. No wonder Fong Shishir was with him. After an unknown period of time, Yidingdang's bladder felt a little bloated. Her face turned even redder as she thought to herself, why do I want to pee? And at a time like this, it's just me and him. This was a predicament that she had never thought of. She could not help but feel anxious. Hold it in. I have to hold it in. She clenched her teeth. After a while, her cheeks turned from red to green. She could not hold it in anymore. Tang Jing noticed that something was wrong with her and quickly asked, Ding Dang, what's wrong? Yi Ding Dang was extremely shy. She did not want to say anything, but the bloating in her bladder was making her collapse. Tang Jing, I want to go to the bathroom. Tang Jing was stunned for a moment. After confirming that he did not hear wrongly, he immediately remembered that in the Shirwan Mountains, he could not move and Mu Hongyan helped him solve his physiological problems. Could it be that this time, he also wanted to help Yi Dingdang solve her physiological problems? He could not help but feel a rush of excitement. This idea was too wretched, but there was no doubt that it was very tempting. Seeing Tang Zhang's eyebrows reveal a trace of a malicious expression, Yi Dingdang wished she could find a hole to crawl into. However, her physiological problems could not be left unsolved. Otherwise, it would be even more embarrassing if she wet the bed later. Tang Zhang took a deep breath and broke the silence. I'll take you there. Then he went out to find a wheelchair and carried her into it. Yidingdang's body inevitably had intimate contact with his. Her body immediately straightened, and her emotions were extremely complicated. Tang Jing also felt the changes in her body. He could not help but find it funny. It was really interesting that the carefree Yidingdang also had this side. He carried her into the wheelchair and pushed her along the corridor to the bathroom. Yi Dingdang felt that countless people were looking at her along the way, which made her feel even more embarrassed. In fact, all of this was her illusion. It was normal to push patients in the hospital. When they finally came to the bathroom, Tang Zhang was in a dilemma. Although this matter was very tempting, it would be strange if he was not beaten to death as a pervert if he rushed into the bathroom like this. However, it was impossible to take her to the men's bathroom, right? Yi Dingdang was also in a dilemma. She did not know what to do. Instead, her body went soft and did not have any strength. She did not even have the strength to speak. Tang Jing coughed and knocked on the door of the women's bathroom. He tried to make his voice sound masculine. Is there anyone inside? I want to bring the patient in. If there is anyone, please tell me. Otherwise, I will come in. After a long time, there was no response. Tang Zhang and Yi Dingdang both breathed a sigh of relief. If there was someone, it would be even more awkward. Tang Zhang carried Yi Dingdang in his arms and walked into the bathroom. Sure enough, there was no one inside. He walked into a cubicle and gently put Yi Dingdang down. The anesthetic effect of her surgery had worn off, but her legs still did not have the strength to stand. She only had a little strength in her hands, so she could not solve the problem by herself. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Tang Jing hesitated for a long time and said, "Do you want me to help you?" Yi Dingdang did not know where she got the strength to nod. Then, Tang Zhang helped her take off her pants little by little. She was wearing a patient's outfit, and her pants were very loose. With a light pull down, it fell to her knees, and two shining white thighs immediately jumped into Tang Zhang's eyes. More importantly, an even more alluring scene swayed in front of his eyes. Yi Dingdang's brain had exploded. She was in a mess, and her thoughts had drifted to God knows where. No matter how carefree she was usually, the natural shyness of a woman still prevailed in this situation. Tang Zhang did not dare to look at her anymore. He quickly carried her and squatted down like he was helping a baby to pee. He aimed at the urinal. Yi Dingdang was so nervous that she did not pee. Tang Zheng was embarrassed. He could not carry her like this. If someone broke in later, this position would be too intimate. Even if he was thick-skinned, he would still feel embarrassed. Shoo. He immediately came up with a plan and whistled. Sure enough, this trick worked. The sound of splashing water immediately rang out. Yi Dingdang's body was like water. She collapsed in Tang Zheng's arms and panted. She was even more tired than after a big battle. She was physically and mentally exhausted. When she was finally done, Tang Zheng pulled up her pants again. He suppressed the desire to see what was going on and pretended to be serious. But the more he acted like this, the more Yi Dingdang felt that he must have seen something. She could not remember how she was carried back to the wheelchair and then returned to the ward. She did not even notice that Tang Zheng had left the ward. When she found that she was alone in the ward, she anxiously looked around. There was no sign of Tang Zheng. Did he run away? He actually took advantage of her and ran away. That was too ungrateful. She was a little indignant, and her heart was even more confused. She did not know how to face him in the future. Just as she was thinking about this, Tang Zheng came back. She was about to shout when she found that there was a person behind him. She was shocked. What was this middle-aged woman doing here? Tang Zheng immediately revealed the answer. Dingdang, I have something to do first. I specially invited this caregiver to take care of you. Caregiver? Yi Dingdang widened her eyes in shock. Yes, I still have something to do. I have to leave for a while. Tang Zheng really had something to do. Although taking care of Yi Dingdang would definitely relive the stimulation just now, there was too much stimulation. He was very afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Moreover, in the long run, the relationship between the two of them would be very awkward, so to be on the safe side, he decided to hire a caregiver to take care of her. If Tian Chanzi was here, he would definitely scold him. Such a good opportunity was wasted. Wasn't this a great opportunity to take down Yi Dingdang? In fact, although Tang Zheng already had a girlfriend, his method of pursuing girls was still at a very early stage. After all, he and Fang Shishir were originally in love with each other, and both of them were in love with each other, so he did not spend much effort to pursue her. Moreover, his focus right now was not on Yi Dingdang, but on the terrorist organization. This was because the information he received was that there was actually the shadow of the demon clan behind the terrorist organization. This was a huge secret. If it wasn't for that old man's special status in the terrorist organization, he definitely wouldn't have known about this. This was the reason why he hid this news from the military. The demon clan was involved with cultivators, so if he told the military, it would be equivalent to telling the martial sect. Although the demon clan's methods were cruel, they were still cultivators, so he wanted to follow the clues and see if he could find out more about the cultivators. As a result, he had no choice but to leave the military and investigate alone. This matter was of great importance, so he definitely would not let a second person know about it. He could not even tell Yi Dingdang. If he delayed for too long and let the people of the demon clan escape, then he would not have such a good opportunity in the future. The master and disciple he had met in the past were all from the demon clan. However, their levels were too low, so Tang Zheng did not know much useful information from them. And this time, the demon clan behind the terrorist organization was actually able to organize so many operations, daring to go against the country, so they would not be the stragglers of the demon clan. That was why Tang Zheng placed so much importance on them. In fact, the demon clan was not much different from other cultivators. It was only because they cultivated special cultivation techniques that were extremely sinister and ruthless that they could forcefully raise their cultivation. It was intolerable for the heavens, so they were rejected by others and were labeled as demon clan. Tang Jing originally did not have much malice towards the demon clan, but after seeing the way the terrorist organization did things, he did not have the slightest good impression of the demon clan. No wonder even in the cultivation world, the demon clan was regarded as a different race. The demon clan did not have the slightest bit of mercy in their hearts, they were too ruthless. If he had the chance this time, he would definitely eradicate these demons. Chapter 277. Yi Dingdang was unable to hold back Tang Jing. When night fell, Tang Jing disappeared into the night, and then took advantage of the night to cross the mountains, crossing the border outside the small border city. Reading in comfort, the western border was too long, and it was impossible to guard against people crossing the border. In recent years, smuggling along the border was rampant, but it was mostly drugs and the like. Some countries in the West were in constant war and economic depression. Many places specialized in growing drugs and transporting them to other countries. Tang Jing found out about this secret smuggling route from the old man's mind, and easily avoided the border guards' patrols. When Tang Jing stepped out of the country's border and looked back, this one step separated him from the border of another country. This kind of feeling was really strange. He did not stop, and quickly advanced in the night. The true qi in his body was crazily circulating, and the earth shrinking technique allowed him to display his speed to the extreme. When the sky was about to brighten, he arrived at a valley. There was nothing strange about this valley, but Tang Jing knew that this was the base camp of the terrorists that the military had been looking for. The valley was steep and the mountain path was rugged. As soon as Tang Jing stepped in, he discovered that there was actually an array in front of him. This array was not very difficult, but it was enough to make people lose their way. 3. They could not tell the direction, and thus could not accurately enter the valley. When Tang Jing saw this array, he understood that the situation he had obtained was not false. There really was the shadow of the demon clan behind these terrorists. This array could only be set up by cultivators, which meant that there was definitely a cultivator living inside. Tang Jing did not dare to be careless anymore. Using the array knowledge he had learned from Tian Chanzi, he carefully passed through the array, and the scene in front of him suddenly opened up. This was a village, and there were dozens of families living here. The village had already woken up in the morning light. Tang Jing hid in a bush and observed the situation of the village. The villagers walked out of their houses in 2s and 3s, and then walked towards the mountain behind the village. Tang Jing followed along and passed by a small mountain peak. The scene in front of him caused him to be flabbergasted as a tall altar appeared in front of him. Complicated patterns were carved on the altar, and the surface of the altar was a strange blood-red color. The hundreds of villagers scattered around the altar and sat down. They raised their hands above their heads and chanted loudly. The awkward chant lingered above the altar. Tang Jing's head suddenly trembled as a strange feeling quietly spread out from the bottom of his heart. There's something strange about this chant. It can actually make me feel uneasy. Moreover, there seems to be a mysterious force rising from the altar. Tang Jing pondered, but his body did not move at all. These villagers were obviously not cultivators, but he was shocked that they could produce such an effect by chanting loudly. Suddenly, his pupils shrank as he saw a few people walking out from a distance. Tang Jing almost cried out in surprise. Cultivator. These were not ordinary people, but practitioners. Moreover, more than 10 of them appeared at once. This was the largest number of practitioners that Tang Jing had ever seen so far. He was really astonished and opened his eyes wide. *CK, there are actually so many cultivators in this damned place. Could it be that all the cultivators have come to this foreign country? Is that why I can't find them in the country? Tang Jing was puzzled, but there was no doubt that these people were not the same kind of people as Tang Jing. They were from the demon race. These people were bloodthirsty and were not easy to deal with. Tang Jing became even more cautious. He did not dare to act blindly without thinking. The key point was that among these people, there were actually people with higher cultivation than him. Walking at the front of the group of 10 was an old man. His face was full of wrinkles and his body was very thin, as if he was dehydrated. However, his eyes were unusually bright and even emitted a chilling light that made one's heart palpitate. The old man's face was gloomy. He did not say a word as he walked towards the altar. The people behind him pushed 3 women out. Not long after, a group of people walked up to the altar. The 3 women were fixed at a specific position on the edge of the altar. The villagers' chanting became louder and louder, filling the mountain forest. Tang Jing did not know what they were going to do, so he could only wait and see. The old man knelt down on the altar and started to ramble. It was unknown what he said, but his expression was quite excited, and then he stood up. He walked towards one of the women. The woman was so scared that her face turned ashen. She screamed, "No!" Puff! A cold light flashed. The woman's artery was cut open. A stream of blood spurted out and fell on the altar. The woman struggled with all her strength, but she was firmly held down by the 2 cultivators behind her. She could not move. The old man's figure flashed and disappeared. He didn't let the blood stain his body. In the next second, he appeared in front of the other 2 women. He did the same thing. 3 pillars of blood soared into the sky and fell on the altar. They followed the patterns and covered the entire altar little by little. Tang Zheng was stunned. He did not expect that they would use living people as sacrifices. They did not care about the lives of others at all. The demon race, after all, was the demon race. They were really different. Tang Zheng's heart was extremely cold. There was no time to save these 3 women. It was useless to rush out now. The chanting became louder and louder. Whoosh! A blood-red light rose from the altar and floated above everyone's head. It formed a blood-red pattern. This pattern changed rapidly, as if something was going to rush out from it. The old man looked excited. He raised his hands and chanted loudly, "Lord Demon God, the demon race is calling for your return. Please sprinkle your anger on this land and let the demon race return to the world." Tang Zheng was shocked. This scene surprised him. This living sacrifice was to summon the so-called demon god. Tang Zheng did not know what the demon god was, but from the old man's excited expression, he could tell that it was not an ordinary character. He did not expect that using sacrifice could summon such an important character. If the demon god was summoned, the demon race would become stronger. More people's lives would be threatened. Moreover, the demon race would return to the world. That was to say, if the demon race's army came to the world, it would be a catastrophe. No, I can't let them succeed. Tang Zheng made up his mind. He looked up again and saw that the blood-red pattern had turned into a whirlpool, spinning rapidly. The blood-red light churned, as if something was about to rush out. The villagers' chanting became louder and louder. They looked at the churning whirlpool as if they were possessed. When the blood-red light fell, the villagers were all dyed blood-red. Strands of blood-red light rose from the villagers' bodies and merged into the blood-red whirlpool. This was the villagers' blood essence. Bang bang bang, the villagers fell to the ground and died one after another, but the others did not seem to notice and continued to chant loudly. This scene was extremely strange. Tang Jing felt a chill in his heart. The demon race was too strange. This method was completely unimaginable. And because of the villagers' blood essence, the blood-red whirlpool churned even more violently. Roar! A heaven-shaking roar came out from the blood-red whirlpool. The old man took the lead and knelt on the ground. The other practitioners also quickly knelt down and prostrated themselves on the ground. They shouted in unison, "Welcome, Lord Demon God." Tang Jing knew that he could not wait any longer. The demon god was about to appear. Just as he was about to launch an attack, he heard a series of earth-shaking explosions in the distance. Rumble. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Even the blood-red whirlpool in the sky shook a few times. An angry roar came out from the whirlpool. Tang Jing hurriedly turned his head towards the direction of the explosion. That was the entrance of the valley. It was the place where the array was set up. He did not know why there was an explosion. Could it be that someone had attacked? The old man raised his head and looked back at the entrance of the valley. With a sinister expression, he roared, "Damn it, this group of people actually came. The matter of welcoming Lord Demon God must not be delayed. They must be stopped. As long as Lord Demon God descends into the world, these people are just ants. There is nothing to fear. The 4 of you stay here and guard. The rest of you come with me to stop these intruders." The old man brought a few practitioners away from the altar and rushed towards the entrance of the valley. The blood-red whirlpool continued to churn, but the chanting stopped because all the villagers' blood essence had been sucked away by the blood-red whirlpool. In order to summon this so-called Lord Demon God, the demon clan did not hesitate to sacrifice the lives of hundreds of people. They were truly insane. The explosion at the entrance of the valley sounded again. Obviously, it was to attack the array. For ordinary people, this was probably the only way. Moreover, the array was not very exquisite and profound. It was far inferior to the 10 directions killing array that Tang Jing had encountered at the foot of the ordinary balance mountain. Therefore, under the attack of guns and cannons, this array would definitely not be able to hold on. The other party would definitely attack the valley. Tang Jing was actually very curious about who the attackers were, but now it was obvious that he did not have the chance to explore. The most important thing now was to stop this sacrifice. Whiz! He suddenly jumped out and rushed towards the altar. Who is it? The 4 demon clan practitioners reacted quickly. They turned their heads and saw a figure flash by. The intruder was already in front of them. Stop him! The demon clan roared. They all raised the weapons in their hands and welcomed Tang Jing. A few cold lights flashed as they attacked Tang Jing from head to toe. The War Soul sword was already tightly gripped in Tang Jing's hand. Clang 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 clang, a series of metal clanging sounds rang out, and the 4 demon clans quickly retreated. Tang Jing was fighting 1 against 4, but he was not at a disadvantage at all. His fighting spirit was high, and the blood in his body was boiling. Amongst the dozen or so cultivators, the only one that he was afraid of was the old man. The old man's cultivation was higher than his, and as for what realm he was at, he could not see through it. However, the 4 people in front of him were obviously only at the qi condensation stage, so Tang Jing was not afraid at all. However, the 4 demon clans were shocked by Tang Jing's move, and shouted in shock, "Cultivator, you're actually a cultivator." There were too few cultivators in this world. Even as a demon clan, they rarely saw other cultivators, but Tang Jing's sudden visit shocked them. Cultivators were different from martial artists. The impact on their hearts could be imagined. We have to stop him. As long as Lord Demon God descends, he will definitely die. One of the demon clans roared and took the lead to rush towards Tang Jing. Chapter 278. Facing the demon clan that was rushing over, Tang Jing slashed out with his sword. Shwa! The black sword light flashed, and the weapon in the opponent's hand was cut in 2. The sword edge brushed past the tip of the opponent's nose, leaving behind a trail of blood. The demon clan screamed in fright and hurriedly retreated, but Tang Jing was like a shadow. The War Soul sword pierced forward, Puchi. It pierced through his body. The demon clan looked at his chest in disbelief, but did not have the slightest strength to resist. The other 3 were shocked. This intruder was actually so powerful, completely beyond their imagination. The three of them looked at each other and attacked together. Tang Zheng suddenly spun, and sword images appeared in all directions. Pu, the three of them were hit by the sword and fell to the ground dead. Tang Zheng did not even pant, these people's cultivation was too low, and was not on the same level as him. Without enemies, it was time to destroy the sacrifice. Looking at the blood vortex above his head, Tang Zheng was in a dilemma. What should he do now? If Tian Chanzi was here, maybe he would have a way to destroy the sacrifice. The blood vortex grew bigger and bigger, almost covering the entire mountaintop. A strong wind blew, and sand and stones flew. An angry roar came from the vortex, which was even louder than before, as if it was exploding in his ears. I can't wait any longer. Tang Zheng could not find a way, so he could only rush into the sky, hold the sword with both hands, and slash at the vortex. Clang! A powerful shockwave suddenly erupted, and Tang Zheng was sent flying as if he had eaten a heavy hammer. He coughed and almost vomited blood. This vortex was too strange, he could not hurt the other party in the slightest under his attack. However, the whirlpool immediately changed. It shook violently and spun even faster. The hundreds of corpses on the ground rose into the air and were sucked into the whirlpool. Suddenly, there was a burst of bloody light. The mysterious thing seemed to want to rush out. Who ruined my plans? A heaven-shaking roar sounded, and the old man returned, his eyes red with anger. Tang Zheng quickly hid behind a big tree and quietly observed the old man. The old man obviously did not see Tang Zheng, but when he saw that the men he had left behind had disappeared without a trace, and there were traces of fighting on the ground, he knew that someone must have been here. Who is it? Come out. You dared to create a diversion and barge in, ruining my plans. Obviously, he had confused Tang Zheng with the group of people at the entrance of the valley. Tang Zheng raised his head and looked at the vortex. Just as he was about to rush out and confront the old man, he saw a rocket coming from afar, heading straight for the old man. The old man flew into a rage. He leaped and dodged the rocket attack. With a loud explosion, a heat wave surged into the sky. Hand over your life. With a furious roar, a vigorous figure shot over from afar like a bullet. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted, the person who came was actually Marshall, how did she find him? However, he did not know that after Wu left the hospital, he did not give up. Instead, he immediately searched for new clues and finally captured the leader of another terrorist organization. This leader was the person who had launched the first round of terrorist attacks. When he returned to the small courtyard, he was captured alive by the military personnel who had been waiting there for a long time. Wu personally interrogated him, pried open his mouth, and found out about this base camp. However, she did not know that the demon clan was involved in this matter. Of course, she was not idle either. Without stopping, she mobilized her subordinates to cross the border and attack. Originally, the military rarely took action across borders, as it was very easy to cause disputes with neighboring countries. However, Wu clearly did not have too many concerns in this regard. He only allowed this group of people to take off their military uniforms, and then carried a large number of weapons on a long journey. They drove directly across the border and took the main road. They were only slightly slower than Tang Zheng. They also encountered the array in front of the valley. After all, Wu was an expert who had studied cultivators. When he saw this array, he knew that the terrorist organization was definitely related to cultivators. Immediately, she was extremely excited. The duty of the martial sect was to hunt and kill cultivators. Since there were cultivators here, she had to break through. She simply ordered her men to use the rockets and grenades they carried with them to bombard the array. After a while, the array was completely destroyed. She swaggered into the valley with her men. However, the moment they entered the valley, they were ambushed. A few demon clan experts rushed forward like a swarm of bees. In an instant, a few people from Wu Yi's side fell. However, Wu did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward and killed 2 demon clan S in an instant. This made her blood boil even more. In her opinion, the lives of ordinary people were insignificant compared to the lives of cultivators. Thus, she did not care about the lives of her subordinates and charged forward. In the end, she fought with the old man. Just at this time, Tang Zhang's sword slashed onto the whirlpool, causing it to shake. The old man knew that there was a problem behind him, so he did not care about fighting with Wu Yi and quickly retreated. Without the old man, the other cultivators were not a match for Wu Yi. She quickly and cleanly reaped the lives of the others. At this moment, she had also paid the price of the lives of 5 people. However, fortunately, Takashi and Sinosaurus were at the back of the group and were not injured. However, this scene gave them a vivid lesson, and many of them had already bent down and vomited. Sinosaurus and the rest had witnessed the battle between Tang Zhang and the terrorists yesterday, so their nerves were slightly stronger and they did not vomit. However, their legs were trembling and their bodies were weak. Their legs were not listening to them anymore. Only Takashi's expression remained the same. Seeing that Wu Yi had brought a large number of soldiers and rushed in, he did not hesitate and quickly followed. He had already discovered that there were cultivators here. He was not afraid, but instead excited. In the past, he and the heavenly mystery Taoist had tried their best to find traces of cultivators, but they had only reaped a few rewards. This time, he actually found traces of cultivators, and not just 1 or 2, but a large group. How could he not be excited? The auras of these people are very compatible with my cultivation technique. They must be from the demon clan. With so many cultivators, there must be a higher level cultivation technique, one that is even more powerful than the one I am currently cultivating. If I can obtain these cultivation techniques, my power will definitely increase greatly, and that brat Tang Jing will no longer be my match. Takashi was eager to give it a try. With a tap of his foot, he chased after them like an arrow. When the others saw Takashi rushing in, Ding Xiaowan clenched his teeth and chased after him. The members of 502 looked at each other and asked in bewilderment, "What should we do?" "Follow him in. Now that OL3 is not here, we can't give all the benefits to Takashi. We have to fight as well. Even without OL3, we have to work hard," Sinosaurus said sonorously. The other 2 nodded in agreement without any hesitation, and then chased after him. "Wait a moment, let's go together." Guosu and Wang Tong also mustered up their courage and said, "Then the 5 of us will definitely gather together and take care of each other," Wang Shiji said in a deep voice. The 5 of them formed a small team, holding guns in their hands, and quickly advanced. The others obviously did not have the courage to do so, and all of them stayed at the entrance of the valley, not daring to advance any further. The moment Tang Jing saw Marshall, he knew that this matter was getting more and more complicated. Since Marshall had appeared, he had to hide his identity. With a swipe of his palm across his face, his appearance completely changed. This was a type of illusion technique, appearance-changing technique. It was not considered complicated, and Tang Jing could already be considered to be proficient in using it now. As long as he had the appearance-changing technique, he did not have to worry about being seen through by Marshall. However, he was not in a hurry to show himself, and continued to hide behind the tree, watching the battle between Marshall and the old man. This old man's cultivation was extremely impressive. He was actually on par with Marshall, and even had the upper hand. He was at least a cultivator in the fasting period. After all, Marshall was a first-grade pre-celestial stage martial artist. Tang Jing could not help but feel a lingering fear. Fortunately, he did not act rashly just now. Otherwise, in front of a cultivator in the fasting period, he, a 4th-grade foundation establishment stage cultivator, would definitely not be able to gain any benefits. It was no wonder that the terrorist organizations were so rampant. With such an expert supporting them, they could indeed run amok to a certain extent. In addition, as long as this so-called Lord Demon God descended into the world, their strength would definitely increase by several times. In the future, their terrorist activities would become even more rampant. The blood-red vortex above his head was still churning. Marshall had already noticed this strange scene and turned pale with fright. He asked loudly, "What exactly is this? Lord Demon God is about to descend into the world. None of you should even think about living, haha." Although the old man's subordinates had all died, he could clearly block Marshall's attack, so he was not very worried. As long as he could stall for time, victory would belong to him. Marshall exclaimed, "Are you summoning people from the sky beyond heaven?" The old man snorted disdainfully, "Yes, the experts of the sky beyond heaven have left this world for too long. It's time for them to return. Don't even think about succeeding. I will definitely not allow people from the sky beyond heaven to come to this world." Marshall's face was ashen, his eyes were resolute, but there was a trace of fear and anger between his brows. Tang Zheng just happened to notice this point. Back then, when Marshall faced the ghost general, she did not have such a reaction, but now that she heard the old man mention the sky beyond heaven, it seemed to make her rather fearful and angry. What was the sky beyond heaven? Tang Zheng was confused. This was the first time he had heard of this term, and immediately, he rejoiced. If he did not rush here in time, he would not have been able to see this big show, and would not have been able to hear such a secret. Suddenly, his gaze turned cold, and he exclaimed in his heart, "Crap, why did Sinosaurus and the others come as well? Damn it, Marshall actually brought them to the base camp of the terrorists. Isn't that equivalent to sending sheep into a tiger's den and putting them in danger?" Sinosaurus and the others had just rushed over when they were attracted by the scene in the sky. They were indescribably shocked. The gigantic blood-red vortex dyed the sky red. It was shocking, it was completely beyond their imagination. Before they could digest this scene, a roar sounded out from the vortex, and a gigantic shadow gradually revealed itself. Chapter 279. A shadow appeared from the whirlpool. It was a huge figure, as if it had a pair of wings that covered the sky and covered the sun. Please add, I've left this world for so many years. Now, it's finally time for me to return. I want this world to suffer my wrath and tremble under my feet. An angry and ferocious voice came from the shadows. So. A few flames fell from the sky, and this part of the forest was immediately set ablaze, turning into a vast sea of fire. Everyone was dumbstruck by this scene, even Wu's eyes widened. She knew about the sky beyond heaven, but she never thought that the person who summoned the sky beyond heaven would become like this. In the blink of an eye, this lush green mountain forest turned into purgatory. The old man knocked Wu back with a single move, then flew onto the altar, knelt down, and excitedly said respectfully, "Welcome Lord Demon God to the world. Very good, the seeds left behind by my demon race have finally sprouted. Back then, we purposely left behind so many cultivation techniques and clues so that the fated person could one day cultivate my demon race's cultivation techniques and summon the demon race back. This day has finally arrived, haha." The demon god laughed out loud, his aura terrifying. Even though Tang Zheng was hiding behind a big tree and restraining his aura, he was still shocked by this scene. This demon god came from the sky beyond heaven, and his might was so strong. That aura of looking down on the world was something that Tang Zheng had never seen before. What kind of place was the sky beyond heaven? There was actually such a powerful existence. More importantly, the information revealed by the demon god was that the demon race was expelled from this world back then, and they purposely left behind some cultivation techniques and clues so that their descendants could cultivate these techniques and then summon them back. Good intentions. Then who was it that expelled them from this world back then? Who was so strong that they could expel such a powerful existence? A series of questions poured into his mind like an avalanche, causing him to be a little confused. Despicable cultivator, you were expelled back then, but now, you still can't act like a tyrant in this world. Wu roared angrily. The demon god disdainfully said, an ant like you dares to speak to me like that? You're courting death. As soon as she finished speaking, a ball of flames descended from the sky towards Marshall. Marshall anxiously dodged, but the place she was originally standing on had already turned into a huge pit, and the soil had become charred black. The might of the demon god was extraordinary. The other soldiers, Sinosaurus and the rest were all trembling in fear. Only Takashi's eyes lit up, like a wolf staring at its prey. Demon god, this is one of the legendary leaders of the legends. The demon god, the demon race, the day when I surpass Tang Zhang is just around the corner. Takashi suppressed the throbbing in his heart with great difficulty, and did not rush up to kneel down to the demon god. As for Marshall, he was finally curious, who was she? It seemed like she had an irreconcilable enmity with the demon clan, and she even knew so much about cultivators. No, I'll wait and see. What if I were to be exposed and attract the attack of Instructor Wu? Takashi had experienced Waterloo at the hands of Tang Zhang, and now he was extremely cautious. Tang Zhang looked at the increasing number of demon gods that were appearing from the whirlpool in the air, and his mind raced. Now was the last chance to stop him. Alright, so be it. This demon god is too powerful. As long as he comes to this world, he will definitely make the demon clan grow stronger. For ordinary people, it will definitely be a disaster. Tang Zhang clenched his teeth and took out the War Soul Sword. War Soul Sword, this time it's up to you. Tang Zhang gently stroked the sword as he said in his heart. The black light on the War Soul Sword flickered, as if it was responding to him. Tang Zhang immediately calmed down and stared at the demon god without blinking. Go! Tang Zhang bellowed and used the Imperial Sword technique. The War Soul Sword quietly pierced through the air, transforming into a black bolt of lightning that pierced towards the demon god. Puff! A bloody light soared into the sky as the demon god roared, "Who is it? Who dares to hurt me?" Whiz! The demon god's huge figure struggled free from the whirlpool and descended from the sky, landing on the altar. Then, the figure quickly shrank and turned into a person. He was wearing a scarlet cloak, and his entire body was enveloped in the cloak. It was impossible to see his appearance clearly. However, the anger in his voice was enough to make everyone tremble in fear. He suddenly looked in the direction of Tang Zhang, his gaze was like lightning, and with a wave of his hand, a black light flashed. Bang! The tree in front of Tang Zhang broke in half, and Tang Zhang grabbed the black light. It was the War Soul Sword. It was very difficult for the War Soul Sword to unleash its power in the hands of others, because they were not the owner of the War Soul Sword. However, in the hands of this demon god, its power was still extraordinary. Tang Zhang's hand that was holding onto the sword hilt started to tremble, and a terrifying force spread out from his meridians to his entire body. He hurriedly channeled his innate qi to counteract this force, and his entire body actually felt weak. This was only a simple attack from the opponent, yet it was already so powerful. If the opponent were to attack with all his might, what kind of scene would that be? Tang Zhang did not dare imagine, because he knew that it meant that he would definitely die. Furthermore, what made him even more shocked was that the War Soul Sword's light had dimmed, and it was obvious that it was damaged. The only thing that made him feel gratified was that there was blood on the War Soul Sword, which was obviously the blood of the demon god. In other words, the sudden attack just now had indeed injured the opponent, but Tang Zhang was not sure how injured the opponent was. Tang Zhang hurriedly kept the War Soul Sword back into the sumer bag. Since the War Soul Sword was damaged, he could not use it for the time being. From Tang Zhang's attack, to the demon god's descent, and then to the demon god's counterattack. All of this happened too quickly. The others did not even see what was going on, they did not even see the appearance of the war soul sword clearly. They only saw the trajectory of the black light that flashed across the sky. The tree was cut down, and Tang Zheng's figure was exposed. Everyone looked at him at the same time, and no one else noticed that there was actually someone hiding here. "So you're here." The old man suddenly stood up and glared at Tang Zheng. Without a doubt, this was the person who started the trouble. "You are a cultivator, yet you help these people and prevent the demon god from descending into the world. What are your intentions?" The old man questioned loudly. Tang Zheng simply walked out with large strides and said, "The demon god has descended into the world, and the people are in a terrible situation. Why would I let such a great demon come to this world and poison the people?" Tang Zheng's voice had also changed, and outsiders could not tell that it was him at all. "But you are a cultivator, yet you are colluding with this group of people. They are our enemies, and we are our allies," the old man said indignantly. Tang Zheng curled his lips and said, "Don't flatter yourself, I am a cultivator, but you are a demon. Cultivators are actually like warriors, there are good people and bad people among them, and the demon is a bad person among the cultivators. I am at odds with the demon, so how can I be your ally?" As he spoke, he gave Wu a meaningful look. Wu Ji stared straight at him and was slightly startled. These words were deafening, causing a storm to rise in her heart. If someone had said these words to her in the past, she would definitely scoff and not believe them at all. But this time, when Tang Zheng said these words, she was not in a hurry to deny them. Instead, she fell into deep thought. Because this was what Tang Zheng was doing right now, she had no choice but to believe him. Were there really good people among the cultivators? It seemed that cultivators were also humans. Naturally, there should be good people and bad people, not much different from warriors. But didn't the sect master say that cultivators were a bunch of crazy freaks? Everyone had the right to kill him. Her eyes were fixed on Tang Zheng, as if she wanted to get more information from this ordinary and unfamiliar face. However, she discovered that all of this was futile. Could it be that the sect master is really wrong? A thought suddenly popped up in her mind, and she was instantly frightened by it. No, the sect master is definitely not wrong. She retracted her expression and her eyes became cold again. She thought to herself, no matter who this cultivator is, since he is preventing the demon god from descending, then let them fight amongst themselves first. The martial sect is too far away from here. If Lord Sect Master can come here, then this demon god is nothing to be afraid of. The old man was rendered speechless by Tang Zheng's rebuttal, his face flushed red. The demon god disdainfully said in a cold voice, "Ignorant brat, pretending to be righteous in front of me, then I will immediately send you to hell." Among the cultivators, there are many of you who are soft-hearted, which led to the current situation. The demon god's figure flashed and pounced towards Tang Zheng. His huge cloak unfolded, and a whirlwind soared into the sky in front of him, directly engulfing Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not even have the chance to resist. Tang Zheng was overwhelmed with shock. Just what cultivation level did this demon god have to be so powerful? Damn it! Tang Zheng cursed, his body was already floating in the air, floating in the blood-red tornado, and this tornado was like a sharp blade that cut through his clothes, and then slowly cut his skin and muscles. Blood flew everywhere. Tang Zheng cried out in pain. This was equivalent to the feeling of 10,000 arrows piercing through his heart. His veins were exposed, his eyes wide open, staring at the demon god. The demon god looked at him in ridicule and said, "You don't know what's good for you. I'll take care of them first, then I'll slowly take care of you, an anomaly among cultivators." The demon god walked towards Marshall step by step. Marshall's expression did not change, he did not move, but the soldiers behind him seemed to have met their nemesis, and subconsciously retreated. There was no other way, the demon god's momentum was too strong, ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. The old man excitedly followed beside the demon god and said respectfully, "Lord Demon God, let me take care of such a small fry for you." The demon god nodded and said, "All right, leave one alive for me. The blood of a pre-celestial martial artist is just right for me to use as a sacrifice for my cultivation." He was actually using other people's lives to cultivate. As expected of the demon clan, his cultivation technique was too vicious. Marshall coldly snorted and said, "I will only die in battle, I will not surrender. Come, I will definitely not do as you wish." With that, she took a step forward and raised one hand like a blade. Roaring Flame Saber. This was her signature move. A wave of heat emanated from her palm, as if it was a flaming blade. Chapter 280. With the demonic god's command, the old man seemed to have the help of God. His fighting spirit was overflowing. He stretched out his long hand, and his bones and tendons sounded together. Like a withered tree in spring, his thin body swelled up in an instant. Even the wrinkles on his face were reduced by a lot. His body became taller in an instant, and his eyes were overflowing with cold light. Wu took a deep breath and took the initiative to strike first. The roaring flame saber slashed forward. Whiz! An invisible gust of wind tore through the air and struck towards the old man. The old man did not dodge. He drew a circle in front of him with one hand and a black chi surged out, blocking the gust of wind. At this moment, Marshall had already arrived in front of the old man. The roaring flame saber slashed towards his neck. The old man snorted and the black gas quickly condensed into a shield. Clang! The roaring flame saber struck the shield and did not move at all. However, Marshall was forced back a step. Without a doubt, the difference in strength between the two of them was obvious. The old man's cultivation was clearly higher than hers. However, Marshall did not give up. She was not someone who would give up. 3 consecutive slashes, but they were all blocked by the black shield. A cold light flashed in the old man's eyes as he said, "Lord Demon God wants you to be a sacrifice. That is your honor, you reckless thing." Suddenly, the shield turned into a wisp of black smoke and then turned into a rope. Like a poisonous snake, it quickly swam towards Wu. Marshall kept waving the roaring flame saber, but the rope was extremely tricky, not allowing the roaring flame saber to touch it. The moment it touched Marshall's body, it quickly spiraled upwards, wanting to bind her. In the blink of an eye, the outcome was decided. It was obvious that the old man did not use his full strength earlier because he had been waiting for the demon god to descend. He was afraid that if he used his full strength, he would lose too much energy. Now that the demon god had descended, he no longer had any worries. Moreover, this was the first time he had performed in front of the demon god, so he naturally had to do his best and take down the other party as quickly as possible. Marshall looked at the rope and was shocked. He quickly asked, "What magic treasure is this?" "Dragon-trapped rope." The old man said proudly, "I'm using the dragon-trapping lasso to deal with you. It's your honor." The dragon-trapping rope was made of special materials. It was an earth-level magic treasure, and it was an offensive magic treasure. From its name, one could imagine one or two things. It could even trap a dragon, so how easy would it be to deal with a human? Shameless boasting. Marshall was not frightened. With a flip of his hand, he slashed towards his own body. His palm had already turned fiery red, and the heat was rippling like a soldering iron. If this blade fell, she would definitely hurt herself, but she didn't hesitate in the slightest. It could be seen how firm and resolute her nature was. Wu was originally a cold person. Not only was she cold to others, she was even colder to herself. Otherwise, she would not have such a cultivation at such a young age. This was not only because she was talented, but also because she was hardworking. Since she was young, she had forced herself to practice martial arts. This was the only thing she usually did. She had no other entertainment or hobbies. Her life was just like her name. There was only one thing left: martial arts. Bang! The fiery red roaring flame saber slashed down on the dragon trapping rope, causing it to immediately emit black smoke. With a whoosh, it slipped off her body. The old man did not expect her to be so difficult to deal with. After seeing her for so long, he still had not captured her. Wouldn't that mean that he would lose face in front of the demon god? An ominous glint flashed in his eyes as he once again pounced forward. The dragon trapping rope once again appeared in front of her like a ghost. Just now, the blade had already left a long gash on her body. The clothes around her waist were already dyed red with blood, but he didn't even look at it. He was still expressionless, as if nothing had happened. However, the others were not as calm as him. The soldiers were originally stunned, but now that they had finally regained their senses, they realized that their leader was in danger, and the soldiers finally took action. Although what they had seen and heard today was completely beyond their imagination, causing them to feel a kind of fear from the bottom of their hearts, after all, they had trained for many years and suppressed the fear in their hearts. They all pointed their guns at the demon god. Obviously, he was the biggest threat here. Bang! 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 The sound of gunshots rang out like raindrops hitting banana leaves. A dense barrage of bullets poured out, and there were even 3 rocket projectiles that were fired at the demon god. The demon god was still shrouded in that scarlet cloak, and his expression could not be seen clearly. However, he did not sit idly by. Instead, he waved his cloak fiercely. Whoosh! A strong wind blew, forming a wind wall. All the bullets were blocked by the wind wall, and the 3 rocket projectiles exploded with a loud bang, causing a terrifying shockwave to spread out. A bunch of ants. Death is not to be regretted. The demon god lightly spat out a few words, and the wind wall turned into a gust of wind that carried countless bullets back. When the soldiers saw this, they wanted to escape, but it was too late. They only had time to let out a series of screams before collapsing to the ground. In the end, only a few student soldiers were left standing. Just now, they were extremely shocked. There were no soldiers who had the courage to shoot like that. Furthermore, they were the last to arrive here and were standing at the back, so they were lucky to survive. A few of them wanted to escape, but they found that their legs were uncontrollably stiff. They did not even have the strength to pull the trigger. They could only stare blankly at this scene. The demon god was like the god of death. They could not even muster the slightest thought of resisting. They did not even have the thought of regretting it. Their minds were blank. Of course, there was one exception, and that was Takashi. Although he pretended to be as frightened and lifeless as the others, his eyes swept across the battlefield one by one, and finally locked onto Tang Jing, who was in midair. He could not see through this cultivator who had suddenly appeared. He was also very curious about who the other party was that dared to ruin the demon race's plans. Listening to his impassioned speech just now, Takashi did not think much of it. This was a society where the strong preyed on the weak. If the demon race was strong, then he, Takashi, would have a better life in the future, and his strength would also be stronger. As for the life and death of the others, he did not care at all. The life and death of the people present had nothing to do with him. He was more concerned about the demon god. As long as the dust of the battle settled, he would impatiently reveal his identity. He was also a member of the demon race, and in the future, he would be able to charge and break through the enemy lines under Lord Demon God. It would be best if he could rule this world and kill all those who did not listen. Madness had already emerged in his eyes. Imagining his glorious days in the future, he could not help but become excited. However, Marshall was not excited at all, because she was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position in the battle with the old man. Suddenly, the old man struck out with his palm. She hurriedly waved her roaring flame blade to block, but she did not know that this was a feint from the old man. The dragon-trapped rope had actually quietly circled behind her and wrapped around her arms. With her arms bound, she had no way to resist. She could only watch as she was tied up like a big dumpling by the dragon-trapped rope, unable to move at all. The old man's eyes finally revealed a look of relief. After spending a lot of effort, he had finally subdued this woman. He did not know who taught her martial arts, but she was already so powerful at such a young age. She was truly difficult to deal with. The old man turned to look at the demon god and said respectfully, "Lord Demon God, your sacrifice has been captured." The demon god nodded his head and said, "Although it's a bit slow, it's still okay. But you have to remember, I don't like waiting. This time is already long enough. Next time, be more efficient." The old man hurriedly nodded his head like he was pounding garlic. He said while trembling with fear, "Yes, I will follow Lord Demon God's orders. There are still a few ants over there. Let's get rid of them together." The demon god pointed at Takashi and the others. Suddenly, his heart trembled as he looked at Takashi with a gaze like lightning. He laughed strangely and said, Interesting. You hit it well." After all, Takashi's method of hiding his cultivation was a method of the demon race. How could it escape the eyes of the demon god? Previously, the demon god had ignored Takashi, but this time, he found clues when he looked closely. Takashi was swept by the demon god's gaze. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cave in the dead of winter. His whole body suddenly trembled. Hearing the demon god's words, he knew that he had been seen through, so he simply stopped hiding. Moreover, the old man was obviously going to get rid of them, so he really could not hide anymore. Just as he was about to open his mouth and say that he was also a demon, he heard an angry roar explode in midair. Tang Zheng followed this knife-like bloody tornado and drifted endlessly. His head was dizzy, and his eyes were blurred. His body had been cut countless times, and his clothes were ragged, making him look like a beggar. But now he was in a worse state than a beggar. At least the beggar's life was not in danger, but his was now in danger. He wanted to resist and use all the innate qi in his body to stabilize himself, but he found that it was useless. The power of this tornado was not something he could resist at all. Actually, thinking about it, he was only at the 4th stage of the foundation establishment stage, and this demon god's cultivation was unfathomable. Although the war soul sword had injured him, Tang Zheng did not know how serious his injuries were. Therefore, no matter what, Tang Zheng's situation was extremely disadvantageous. Seeing that the battle on the ground had already ended, all the soldiers had died, Marshall had been captured, and the old man was about to deal with Sinosaurus and the others. These people were his classmates, his teammates. How could he just watch as they were killed? Thus, he let out an unwilling roar, just in time to interrupt Takashi's actions, causing him to stop just as he was about to kneel down and pay his respects to the demon god. Then, everyone's gaze was attracted to Tang Zheng. They only heard a loud roar, "You are not allowed to hurt them." Marshall looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. This cultivator was really strange, he could not even protect himself, yet he still wanted to protect others. This was completely different from the cultivators that the sect master had described. Sinosaurus and the rest looked at Tang Zheng, thinking, "Bro, you can't even protect yourself, and you still want to save us, thank you very much." It seems that this time, there is no escape. If we are lucky enough to meet again in our next life, thank you for your good intentions. The demon god raised his head and looked at Tang Zheng, and said indifferently, "These ants have been dealt with, now it's your turn." Chapter 281. Seeing the demon god looking at him, Tang Zheng's heart felt as if it was about to stop beating, as if he was about to suffocate. Sogu, 360, search download novels for free. What should I do? The War Soul Sword is damaged and is unable to attack. How can I attack the demon god from such a long distance? Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. With a thought, a gigantic bow appeared in his hand, heaven-shocking bow. But he immediately realized another problem: there was only a bow, no arrows, and no way to attack. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had actually forgotten the most important point. However, when he held the heaven-shocking bow in his hands, his floating body suddenly stabilized, as if 1,000-gene boulder was tied to his body, and the strong wind could no longer shake him in the slightest. He was overjoyed. If he had known that the heaven-shocking bow had such a miraculous effect, he wouldn't have had to work so hard just now. His hand subconsciously pulled on the bowstring, and a mysterious power spread out. He turned pale with fright and opened his eyes wide. Why is this bow so mysterious? It doesn't have any arrows, but it seems to have some power. When the others saw him take out a bow and pull the bowstring with his bare hands, as if he was about to shoot an arrow, they couldn't help but be surprised. The old man from the demon clan laughed out loud in disdain. You overestimate yourself. It seems that you have been scared out of your wits by the Lord Demon God. Gao Daji had a look of disdain on his face. This cultivator was just a so-so, and he was also a fool. He had thought too much of him before. The demon god stared straight at Tang Jing, stared at the bow in his hand, and thought in surprise, what is the background of this bow, to actually be able to stabilize his body? However, an ant is an ant after all. Don't even think about raising a huge wave. The demon god's hand reached out from his cloak and aimed at Tang Jing. Just as he was about to attack, Tang Jing released the bowstring. Buzz! A deafening sound resounded throughout the world, causing everyone's hearts to tremble, but an even more shocking scene appeared. The tornado around Tang Jing instantly collapsed, and an invisible force broke through the air, heading straight for the demon god. A blood-red light lit up in the demon god's hand, instantly enveloping him, forming a screen of light. Gotcha! When the heaven-shocking bow's attack struck the light screen instantly collapsed and turned into pieces. The demon god turned pale with fright. What kind of bow is that? The others also had the same question. What kind of divine bow was this? It could have such power without using arrows. Tang Jing landed lightly on the ground, and also looked at the divine might of the heaven-shocking bow in shock. Not only did this arrow break the tornado, it also broke the opponent's defense. He looked at the divine bow in his hand with indescribable surprise, and suddenly realized that no wonder Li Xiaotian did not hesitate to risk his life to obtain this divine bow from the prehistoric heavenly tomb. Its power was simply too great. With the divine bow in hand, Tang Jing couldn't help but feel extremely confident. He didn't give his opponent a chance to be shocked, and he once more pulled the bowstring. This time, the bowstring was drawn into a full moon shape. Tang Jing felt that he could not hold on any longer. Pulling this heaven-shocking bow was extremely strenuous. Wang! Tang Jing released his finger once again, and this time, the wind and clouds in the sky changed color. A gust of wind erupted from the bowstring, like an angry dragon roaring as it rushed towards the demon god. The demon god turned pale with fright, his cloak expanded, and a bloody light soared into the sky, covering the sun. Bang! With a loud sound, the heaven and earth trembled. The flames that were originally burning in the valley were instantly extinguished by the gust of wind. Sand and rocks flew everywhere, and the world dimmed. The scarlet cloak trembled violently, and then a miserable scream rang out, I am not willing, brat, I will definitely come back to find you. Boom! With an explosive sound, the scarlet cloak disintegrated, and a bloody light soared into the sky, as if it had turned into a rain of blood, flying in all directions. This scene was unbelievable. No one would have thought that such a powerful demon god would actually be killed by Tang Zheng's arrow. Everyone looked at Tang Zheng at the same time, and Tang Zheng also looked at the heaven-shocking bow in his hands in disbelief. Was this a dream? Obviously not. However, Tang Zheng was not as optimistic as these people. He looked at the bloody light that filled the sky and frowned. The demon god was not dead. Tang Zheng sensed that a strand of divine soul had escaped. The demon god was only heavily injured, but he still stayed in this world. In other words, the demon clan's living sacrifice had successfully summoned the demon god to this world. Actually, outsiders did not know the exact situation of the demon god. Although he had performed extremely well just now, and every move he made was filled with boundless power. However, only he himself knew that after being summoned to this world through the sacrifice of the living, his own strength had already been consumed by more than 70 to 80%, and Tang Zheng had also given him a sword strike at the critical moment. This sword strike was when he was at his weakest when he arrived in this world, and the injury was extremely serious, but he had temporarily concealed it. Now that the heaven-shocking bow had shot him 2 more arrows, he finally could not hold on any longer. His body exploded, and his soul escaped. Therefore, the demon god was just a guy who looked strong on the outside but was actually weak on the inside. Tang Zheng had given him a fatal blow when he was at his weakest. However, the others did not know about this. They all looked at the heaven-shocking bow in Tang Zheng's hands in shock, and even Wu was no exception. What kind of divine weapon was this? It actually had such divine might. Blood light sprinkled down from the sky and landed on everyone's bodies. No one noticed that many of the blood light had seeped into their skin, especially Do Long and the others, as a strange energy started to swim within their bodies. Takashi was originally prepared to hug the demon god's thigh. If not for Tang Zheng's roar just now, he would have already revealed his identity and would have died without a doubt. He was filled with lingering fear, his face gradually turned pale, and his heart was filled with sorrow. He saw that he had missed such a great opportunity, and it was all because of this mysterious cultivator that he had ruined his plans. He wanted nothing more than to kill this guy, but he did not dare to act rashly. This person was obviously not someone he could contend against, so he could only continue to stand there in fear and unease, like a puppet. The old man from the demon clan was like a deflated balloon, quickly shriveling up. His eyes that were overflowing with a cold light actually dimmed. Of course, he had also discovered the demon god's escaping soul. He looked in the direction the demon god was escaping in and muttered to himself, "How could Lord Demon God fail? How could he fail?" This was like a person who had worked hard for a goal his entire life. Just as he was about to succeed, in the end, all his efforts were for naught. This kind of psychological blow was incomparable. Tang Zheng stared at the old man, his face revealing killing intent. Although the demon god had escaped, he definitely could not let the leader of the demon clan escape, or else there would be endless trouble in the future. Whiz! Tang Zheng appeared in front of the old man in a flash. The old man was so scared by Tang Zheng's indomitable aura that he retreated a few steps back. His expression changed, and he actually did not dare to resist. It was really because the 2 arrows from Tang Zheng had given him too much psychological pressure. Tang Zheng was secretly delighted. "If you don't resist, then I'll just take advantage of your weakness and take your life." Pulling the bowstring, a powerful aura immediately enveloped the opponent, causing him to have the thought of being powerless to escape. Actually, this was all his misconception. Although the heaven-shocking bow's power was extraordinary, Tang Zheng was only at the 4th stage of the foundation establishment stage after all, and was far from his fasting period. If he were to counterattack, he might be able to win. Furthermore, Tang Zheng had just shot 2 arrows, and had already used up 60 to 70% of his strength, so his attack power was greatly reduced. However, the old man was not clear about this. When he saw the heaven-shocking bow, he was scared out of his wits. He retreated again, and actually retreated to the front of Takashi. Wang! The bowstring vibrated, and Tang Jing shot out another arrow, but the power of this arrow was incomparable to the previous one. However, the old man clearly did not notice this, and with a loud shout, he hurriedly blocked it. However, the dragon-trapped rope was not by his side, and he did not have any other magic treasure to block it. He could only circulate his energy and use his palms to block it. Puff! This invisible attack hit his chest. He looked at his chest in disbelief, but discovered that it was not fatal. He was surprised. Just as he was about to say that your attack was only so-so, a burst of gunshots interrupted his words. Scalding hot bullets shot into his back and out of his chest, leaving behind huge holes. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood and turned his head to look, only to discover that Takashi was standing behind him, and the semi-automatic rifle in his hand was continuously spitting out flames, as dozens of bullets were fed to him. Although the old man was a cultivator, he was still made of flesh and blood. These bullets had already completely taken away his life force, and were even more fatal than Tang Zhang's arrow. No one expected Takashi to suddenly shoot. In fact, Takashi was also very unwilling to shoot, as he really hoped that the demon clan would win. However, everything in front of him told him that the demon clan had failed. If he did not take action, then he would have no profit at all on this trip, so he had to stand out among these people, so he did not hesitate to pull the trigger. Although the old man was also a demon, he was simply an ant to him. How could he not step on his shoulder to get to the top? He deliberately showed a look of fear, and when he saw the old man turn his head to look at him, he seemed to be frightened. He threw away the rifle, hugged the old man's body with both hands, and the two of them rolled on the ground together. At the same time, Takashi's hands were not idle. They quickly searched the old man's body, and the two of them rolled on the ground very well concealed his real behavior. Not long after, he touched a small jade tablet, and his heart was overjoyed. Cultivators would only use jade tablets to record cultivation techniques, and they would usually use jade tablets to record high-level cultivation techniques. Didn't that mean that he had obtained a high-level cultivation technique? In the past, Daoist Tianji had cultivated for most of his life before he was only able to reach the first grade of the foundation establishment stage because he did not have a high-level cultivation method. As his disciple, Gao Daji was very clear on this point, so he had always longed for a high-level cultivation method. But this time, by a stroke of luck, he simply wanted to jump up in excitement. He hurriedly put away the jade tablet, and after confirming that the other party did not have anything useful on him, he stopped rolling. Then, he firmly pressed the other party under his body, as if he was going to fight to the death. However, his eyes glanced at the dragon-trapped rope that tied Wu up like a dumpling. Chapter 282. Of course, Tang Zhang had to keep an eye on the dragon-trapped rope. Even a pre-celestial expert like Wu was bound by the dragon-trapped rope. How could Tang Zhang let him slip away for nothing? Please add moreover, the old man from the demon clan was already dead, so the dragon-trapped rope was an ownerless item. He walked in front of Wu, his martial arts were restricted and he was unable to move. He stared straight at Tang Jing, his shocking attack had set off a storm in her heart. Her gaze was also fixed on the heaven-shocking bow, guessing what kind of divine weapon it was. More importantly, how was the other party going to deal with her? After all, there was no one here who could fight against Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng stared straight at her, a strong pressure caused her to frown. Without a doubt, this was the best time to kill her, to prevent future troubles. As long as she died, the martial sect would not know that he was a cultivator for the time being. After all, Wu was a ticking time bomb, and if she recovered her memories one day, Tang Zheng would not have a good ending. Wu could feel a strong killing intent from his eyes, his heart trembled, and he asked softly, "You want to kill me?" Tang Jing did not deny it, and said, "You also want to kill cultivators, so it doesn't seem wrong for me to kill you." I'm wrong for killing cultivators? Look at those cultivators just now, do you think they don't deserve to die? Wu was not afraid, and instead asked in a loud and clear voice. Tang Jing did not comment, and said, "They do deserve to die, but are all martial artists good people? Do you dare to say that these people did not die because of you?" Tang Jing pointed at the soldiers who had fallen to the ground. Wu said disapprovingly, "They died to protect this country. They died for a reason." Tang Jing sneered in disdain, This explanation is impressive enough, but I don't like to hear the reason. Let me ask you directly, if I were to be captured in front of you, would you let me go?" Wu thought for a moment, then firmly shook his head, "No." Although Tang Zhang's previous words had touched her, the values that had been deeply ingrained in her since she was young would not be so easily destroyed. She still felt that hunting cultivators was the best way to protect ordinary people. Tang Jing grinned coldly. "If that's the case, then I have no reason to let you go." Tang Jing grabbed Wu's neck without the slightest bit of mercy. Although Wu was beautiful and tall as Tang Jing, what was the use of that? Tang Jing was not a wastrel who could not walk when he saw a beauty. Moreover, he did not have any improper thoughts about martial arts. Compared to beauty, he cherished his life more. When the others saw that this cultivator actually wanted to kill Instructor Wu, they were extremely shocked. Wasn't everyone together just now? Why are they killing each other now? However, they were too far away, and the conversation between Tang Jing and Marshall was not loud, so the others did not know what the two were talking about. They only knew that the atmosphere was tense again. Takashi did not stop him, because he could not figure out the cultivator's background. She did not beg for mercy, but only stared straight at Tang Jing, as if she wanted to remember his appearance. Tang Jing's ragged clothes were not much better than a beggar's, and he even revealed a lot of his white body. Marshall's gaze became blurry due to the lack of oxygen. In a trance, she saw a jade pendant hanging around Tang Jing's neck, and her eyes couldn't help but widen. She opened her mouth and said with difficulty, Your jade pendant, jade pendant." Tang Jing's head moved. He immediately lowered his head to look, only to see that the jade pendant hanging around his neck had already been revealed due to his torn clothes, and the large, martial, character on the jade pendant was clearly visible. This jade pendant was given to him by Tang Dehai back then, saying that they were together when he first saw her, and it was related to the mystery of his birth. Tang Jing usually wore it around his neck and did not pay any attention to it. After all, he did not have much interest in his own background, and did not have any sense of closeness to his biological parents that he could not remember at all. But at this moment, Marshall looked at the jade pendant with an expression of disbelief. A person's expression when their life was hanging by a thread was the most realistic. Therefore, when he saw her reaction, Tang Jing guessed that she recognized this jade pendant. Tang Jing released his hand. Marshall took a deep breath and coughed a few times. However, his eyes were fixed on the jade pendant, and said, "How did you get this jade pendant?" Tang Jing coldly snorted, and said, "You are in my hands, so I should be the one asking you, how do you recognize this jade pendant?" "Of course I recognize this jade pendant. This is an item of my martial sect." "You are a cultivator, how can you have an item of my martial sect?" Marshall asked suspiciously. "An item of the martial sect?" Tang Jing was greatly surprised. How could the thing in his swaddling clothes be an item of the martial sect? This is too ridiculous. Marshall looked at Tang Jing with a complicated gaze. Could it be that this person was related to the martial sect? "Where did you get this jade pendant?" Marshall asked. "Tell me the origin of this jade pendant first." Tang Jing asked back. If you want to know the origin of the jade pendant, then tell me how you got it. What does it have to do with you? Marshall did not retreat in the slightest and asked coldly. Tang Jing grabbed her neck again and said, now that you are in my hands, you have to answer my question first, do you hear me? If you don't answer my question first, even if you kill me, don't even think about making me speak. Marshall was not afraid at all. If I don't kill you, I have other ways to find out your secret. Tang Zheng would not show mercy to the fairer sex, and immediately prepared to use the soul-searching technique to find out the origin of the jade pendant. Although Tang Zheng usually did not care about the mystery of his birth, he had coincidentally found some clues this time, so of course he would not let it go. Tang Zheng reached out his hand to grab the top of her head. Marshall did not know what he was going to do, so he raised his neck and stared at her fearlessly. Whiz! Suddenly, a bullet shot towards Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng felt the danger and quickly dodged to the side, avoiding the bullet. Who is it? He suddenly looked in the direction of the bullet and saw a group of soldiers rushing over. The leader was actually Kai Guibin. In this surprise attack on the terrorist base, Wu's team was only the vanguard, and the main force was behind them. The two sides arrived one after the other, but they did not expect that the battle was already nearing its end. If not for the sacrifice, the 100 or so villagers would have been terrorists. Their explosive fighting strength would have been unparalleled, and it would not have been easy to eliminate them. However, no one would have expected that the demon clan would go crazy. In order to summon the demon god, they would not hesitate to sacrifice the followers that they had painstakingly recruited. When Tang Zheng saw the reinforcements, he knew that things were not going well. It was already too late for him to use the soul-searching technique, and it was not realistic for him to take Wu away from so many armed soldiers. If he delayed any longer, he would probably be surrounded by these soldiers. He had already consumed a lot of energy, so if he was surrounded, he would probably be captured alive. Therefore, in the blink of an eye, he had already considered the pros and cons of the situation. He extended his hand and grabbed onto the dragon-trapped rope, and with a fierce pull, he released Wu. However, he did not forget to use the body lock technique, temporarily restricting her movements. Then, he quickly retreated, and in the blink of an eye, disappeared into the forest. Kai Guibin looked at the mess, the scene that was like purgatory on earth, and could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Especially when he looked at the dead soldiers on the ground, his eyes turned red, and he was incomparably angry. Who did this? Who was that person just now? Quickly go and catch him. A small group of soldiers was about to chase in the direction of Tang Zheng when Wu took a deep breath. His body released a series of crisp cracking sounds as he finally broke free from the body lock technique. He anxiously stopped them. Stop, don't chase. Kai Guibin glared at Wu. Although Wu was sent by the higher-ups, how could he remain indifferent when so many soldiers died under her leadership? Why not? You won't be able to catch up. Wu looked in the direction that Tang Jing disappeared in and said coldly without any trace of politeness. Kai Guibin said unhappily, my soldiers' tracking abilities are counted on one hand, I don't believe that I can't catch up to a criminal. Under Kai Guibin's order, a small team quickly chased in the direction that Tang Jing had disappeared in. Wu did not try to persuade him any further, and directly walked towards the corpse of the old man from Demon Clan. Takashi had already stood up, and seeing Wu walking over, he hurriedly said respectfully, Instructor Wu. Wu looked at him with admiration and said, not bad. Takashi pretended to be afraid and laughed, then did not dare to look at her again, and immediately lowered his head. The scene of Wu and Demon Clan being at odds was still vivid in his mind, causing him to secretly figure out what kind of identity Wu had. If Marshall were to discover his identity as a demon, he would definitely die. Wu did not pay too much attention to Takashi. Instead, he squatted down to check on the old man. After confirming that he was dead, he stood up. Kai Guibin walked over in shock and asked, Instructor Wu, what exactly is going on? Why did so many people die? What about the terrorists? Why did this forest look like it had been set on fire? Wu Qingpiao glanced at him and said, the terrorists have been completely annihilated. You don't need to know anything else. Kai Guibin was furious. As the person in charge of this matter, you actually said that I don't need to know. How preposterous. His face darkened, and said, Instructor Wu, my soldiers are dead, don't tell me I don't have the right to know. There are some things that you shouldn't know. Wu was not polite at all, and after saying that, he walked out of the valley, leaving Kai Guibin behind in anger. However, he was not willing to give up, and immediately turned to Takashi and the others. Soon, he understood the whole story, but no matter how he listened to it, it sounded like a heavenly book. Cultivator, Demon Clan. What was this? Not long later, the soldiers who were chasing Tang Jing returned. They found nothing, and Kai Guibin could not help but feel a sense of defeat. However, although the sacrifices this time were not small, to be able to capture all the terrorists in one fell swoop, at least this operation was a success. Then, he could report to the higher-ups. Chapter 283. Wu left the valley and quickly reported to the martial sect about his encounter with the cultivators. After that, he rushed back to the martial sect without stopping, only to find that the atmosphere had become much more solemn. Set up. She walked into the meeting hall and saw the sect master sitting high up in the middle of the hall, with two elders sitting on his left and right. Her expression couldn't help but turn cold. She had not seen such a big scene for many years. All the people in charge of the martial sect were gathered together. It must be for an important matter. This time, they were obviously waiting for her, which meant that the matter of the demon clan had attracted their attention. Wu bowed to everyone with a serious expression, then stood in the middle of the hall like a javelin, waiting for everyone to ask. The martial sect leader was not old, in his 40s, he was in his prime. His thick eyebrows were raised high, his face was resolute, and he had an imposing aura that was not angry. In addition, his skin was extremely good, sparkling and translucent. It was a level that many women could only dream of. However, in front of an expert, this point was enough to show that his martial arts had reached a superb level, because this was the effect of washing the marrow. Only by cultivating to the Grandmaster realm would one be able to wash their marrow, but not everyone in the Grandmaster realm would be able to wash their marrow. This required luck. When a person washed their marrow, all the impurities in their body would be completely expelled, and the inner strength in their body would circulate faster, and they could store more inner strength. Every time we saw the sect leader, he would not hide his admiration for him. He did not know when he would be able to have the same cultivation as the sect leader. Wu, we have a rough understanding of your situation this time, but there are still many details that we need to verify with you. The sect leader said with a loud voice. Wu bowed respectfully. Yes, sect leader. If Tang Zheng saw her respectful appearance, he would definitely be shocked. He had always thought that this arrogant woman would not bow her head to anyone. The sect leader nodded to an elder below. The elder accepted the order and asked in a deep voice, Wu, have the demons you encountered been completely annihilated? Yes, all the demons present have been completely annihilated. Wu said with certainty. Is that demon god the same? Yes, the demonic god was struck by that mysterious person's arrow, exploding and dying, turning into bloody light that filled the sky. Wu described. The elder turned his head and looked at the sect leader. The sect leader's face darkened as he sighed and said, Wu, do you know that the demon god is not dead? He didn't die. How is that possible? Wu was shocked. I saw him being shot by an arrow with my own eyes and exploding to death. The sect leader shook his head and said, cultivators have many secret techniques, especially when the other party is a demon god. How can he die so easily? He had not seen it with his own eyes, but he had such confidence. Marshall could not help but be surprised, but he did not dare to doubt the sect master's words, because she had always believed in his words since she was young. Sect master, doesn't that mean that this demon god will come out in the future? That will set off a bloody storm. Marshall said in fear. The sect leader sighed and said, although this demon god is not dead, he must have been seriously injured. It won't be easy for him to recover, so from now on, we must pay attention to the information from everywhere. An elder said, speaking of intelligence, the one with the most complete intelligence system in the world is the Lee Palace. Why don't we send someone to the Lee Palace and deepen our cooperation? The sect leader pondered for a moment, then agreed, this suggestion is not bad. The Lee Palace has been the closest to the secular world these years, the intelligence is perfect. Since the cultivators have invaded, then we should join forces with the Lee Palace and guard against them. We must not let these cultivators act recklessly. Then who should we send? The sect leader looked at Wu and said, the Lee Palace has never received male guests, so, Wu, you should make another trip to the Lee Palace. Yes, sect leader. Wu accepted the order. Also, did you find out anything about that mysterious person? The sect leader asked again. The elders all shook their heads, then looked at Wu. Wu said, this mysterious person's cultivation is not low, and he also has that divine bow, as if he is being assisted by a god. Furthermore, he is very different from the demon clan. What's the difference? Cultivators are all jackals of the same tribe, don't be fooled by him and speak up for him. An elder said angrily. The others nodded their heads. Marshall, cultivators are incomparably cunning, don't be fooled by them. If you meet them in the future, you must do your best to kill them. Yes, sir. Wu did not refute, but his mind could not help but recall that ordinary face without any special features, as well as his attitude towards the demon clan. It seemed that he did not wish to see the people suffer. It was not a pretense, but a sincere one. Are cultivators really as despicable and shameless as the sect leader and the elders said? This question surfaced in her mind, and she was instantly shocked. In front of the sect leader and the elders, how could she doubt them in her heart? She felt that this was blasphemy towards the Marshall sect, and hurriedly lowered her head in shame. Also, go to the Lee Palace and inquire about the identity of this mysterious person. Maybe the Lee Palace will have some clues. Since this person is a cultivator, and his cultivation is not weak, we naturally cannot let him go. The sect leader said. Mentioning the identity of the mysterious person, Wu could not help but think of the jade tablet. His heart skipped a beat, and just as he was about to say something about the jade pendant, he glanced at the few elders and forcefully swallowed his words. The sect leader noticed her expression and said without batting an eyelid, all right, that's all for today. Elders, go back and send people to keep an eye on the situation. The situation is getting worse and worse. The demon clan must have left behind more than one backup plan. Perhaps there are other people who have obtained the inheritance of the demon clan and summoned the demon clan from other places to this world. Yes, sect master, we were really lucky this time. If we hadn't accidentally found out that the terrorists might have the support of cultivators and followed the clues to find the melon, then we might not have found the terrorists' base camp and thus destroyed their sacrificial summoning. An elder sighed. Back then, she had been wondering why the sect leader would send her to the military. It turned out that he had long sensed that the terrorist organization was related to cultivators and was only borrowing the power of the military to investigate this matter. However, this was indeed a fluke. However, if not for the fact that Tang Jing had killed all the leaders of the terrorist organizations in the courtyard, she would have been able to find out about this news earlier. Perhaps she would have been able to act before the sacrifice and successfully stop the sacrifice. Therefore, she did not have the slightest good impression of this Tang Jing. However, she did not think that if they had arrived at the valley one step earlier, the terrorists would have fought back. Furthermore, the demons would have taken the opportunity to escape and disappear without a trace. Then, they would have been able to summon sacrifices in other places. That way, the demon god would have been able to silently and peacefully descend into this world. The elders retreated, and the sect leader walked towards the back of the meeting hall. Wu followed closely behind him, and when the two of them reached a garden at the back, the sect leader stopped and looked at the blossoming flowers in the garden. He said, "You seem to have something to say to me." "Yes, sect leader. This time, I almost couldn't come back. The mysterious person clearly wanted to kill me, and he didn't hesitate to kill me." "Oh." The sect leader was slightly surprised. "Why did you come back alive?" "Because I saw a jade pendant." Wu was silent for a moment, then said, "What jade pendant?" "It can actually save your life." "A jade pendant with the word martial carved on it." After Wu finished speaking, he stared at the sect leader. His entire body froze, and his originally abyss-like aura suddenly changed. He turned around and looked at Wu, and his gaze seemed to be able to pierce through time and space, landing on Wu's body. Even though she was a pre-celestial martial artist, she still felt as if she was about to be suppressed into the ground by this gaze. A trace of fear spread out from the bottom of her heart. She didn't know why her words would cause such a huge reaction from the sect leader, but at this moment, she didn't dare to say anything. She could only lower her head deeply. After a long while, the pressure disappeared. She slowly raised her head and found that the sect leader's expression had returned to normal. He looked at her and asked, "You're saying that Cultivator has that jade pendant on him?" "Yes, it's hanging around his neck." Wu said. "Describe his appearance again." Wugong tried his best to recall every detail of the other party's appearance, and then tried his best to restore this face with words. The sect leader muttered to himself, but his eyebrows were tightly knitted together. "Sect leader, this jade pendant seems to be very similar to the one on your body." Wu said carefully, and then his gaze landed on the jade pendant on the sect leader's waist. This jade pendant was the same size as Tang Zheng's jade pendant, and the patterns on it were exactly the same. It was obvious that it was carved by the same sculptor, and the only difference was the word on it. On this jade pendant, there was not the word martial, but the word sect. Wu had seen this jade pendant since he was young, which was why he was able to recognize the jade pendant on Tang Zhang's neck with a single glance. If it wasn't for the different word, the two jade pendants would be exactly the same, and it would be hard to tell if they were real or fake. The sect leader took off the jade pendant from his waist and stared straight at it. His eyes became exceptionally deep, as if he was immersed in deep memories. "Sect leader, is that jade pendant also a martial sect item?" Wu asked carefully. Back then, she had insisted that Tang Zheng's jade pendant was a martial sect item. It was a preconceived notion, but now, in front of the sect leader, she did not dare to be so arbitrary. The sect leader muttered to himself for a long time before nodding heavily. "It is indeed a martial sect item. It is a pair with this jade pendant. One martial, one sect. The name of the martial sect is because of these two jade pendants." "What? The martial sect is actually named because of these two jade pendants?" Even though Wu was calm, he was still extremely shocked by this news. She had grown up in the martial sect since she was young, but she had never heard of this matter. There was actually such a saying about the origins of the martial sect, and more importantly, how could that cultivator have such an important jade pendant to the martial sect? Countless questions surfaced in her heart, and she really wanted to ask the sect leader clearly. "What are you two whispering about here?" Suddenly, a voice rang out. Chapter 284. The martial sect master and Wu were master and disciple. The reason why Wu was able to achieve his current cultivation was because of the sect master's careful guidance. After all, the personal guidance of such a super expert was something that no one else could compare to. Sogu, 360, so, when this question was asked, the two of them stopped talking at the same time. The sect master signaled with his eyes, and Wu understood what to do. A burst of footsteps gradually approached, and a woman walked out from the 10,000 flowers. Compared to her, the blooming flowers seemed to be shyly lowering their heads, dwarfing her and losing their luster. This woman was very beautiful, but she did not have the coldness that kept people thousands of miles away. Instead, it was like a spring breeze, making people feel relaxed and comfortable. Wu immediately bowed respectfully. Mistress. This woman was the wife of the martial sect master, surnamed Lan Yu. Lan Yu leisurely walked over, with a faint smile on his face. He asked, Wu, come back from this mission to accompany me for a few days. Don't always listen to your master, you only know how to wander outside every day. Wu glanced at the sect master and said, Thank you for your good intentions, mistress. Lan Yu smiled and said, I know that without your master's orders, you will not stay. Then, he turned to the sect master and said, Look at my garden blooming with hundreds of flowers. If no one is happy and appreciative, wouldn't it be a waste of this beauty? That's why I asked Wu to stay with me for a few days. The sect master smiled and said, Of course, that's not a problem. This time, she came back to rest for a few days. Lan Yu laughed, That's for the best, but I heard that we encountered the demon clan during this mission. Yes, the demon clan is cunning. Back then, they left behind a backup plan so that the person who obtained the inheritance could summon them back. The sect master said in a deep voice. Lan Yu smiled but did not say anything. After a long while, he said, I am not interested in these things. I only care about my flowers and plants. After saying that, he waved his hand towards Wu. The sect master signaled to Wu with his eyes, and Wu understood and followed his mistress into the 10,000 flowers. Wu was very clear that she could not tell her mistress about the mysterious person, especially about the jade pendant. This was what she had just understood from the sect master's eyes. Although she was very curious as to why the sect leader did this, she did not hesitate to hide this secret in the bottom of her heart. Tang Jing did not know that his jade pendant had caused such a big reaction. He had rushed back to the border town and returned to Yidingdang's side. The others did not know that he had been missing for a day. This time, Yidingdang did not insist on getting to the bottom of the matter. Although the two of them had only been separated for a day, Yidingdang lay on the hospital bed. From time to time, she would think about the embarrassing scene from before. Tang Zheng's image became clearer in her mind. Therefore, when she saw Tang Zheng again, her heart was filled with joy. However, their joy did not last long because Sinosaurus and the others also came to visit them. Sinosaurus and the others wanted to say something, but hesitated. They had received orders from their superiors that the matters regarding the practitioners in the valley must not be leaked out. However, they did mention that the operation this time was very successful, but the situation was very tragic, and the military had lost many people. Yidingdang's expression dimmed. Tang Zheng understood and comforted him with a few words. Then, this group of student soldiers boarded a military plane and returned to a military airport in the capital. Yidingdang was a warrior, so she recovered very quickly. She could walk alone with a cane, and Tang Jing, who had been kicked out of the competition, also followed them back to the capital. During this time, Kai Guibin and Su Hongwu met Tang Jing alone. Both of them felt a little regretful, as they actually thought highly of Tang Jing. After all, his previous performance was very eye-catching, but they did not expect him to go crazy and start a massacre at the terrorists, which gave them a headache. Tang Zheng had disobeyed the order. Although the situation was urgent, he did not report it to his superiors. Instead, he acted on his own accord, and the key point was that he even started a massacre, almost causing the entire plan to fail. From the beginning of Tang Zhang's counterattack against the fake terrorists in the forest, the military could tell that he was a person who dared to kill people. However, they did not expect him to be so terrifying when he killed people. It completely exceeded their imagination. Later on, when the two officers saw the photos of the scene in the courtyard, they could not help but tremble in fear. If this kind of person was recruited into the army and was not well managed, he would become a killing machine in the future, and they would have to bear the responsibility. Moreover, the higher-ups had already decided to nurture Takashi, who had an equally outstanding performance and was even more obedient. As for Tang Zhang, he naturally went back to where he came from. Moreover, through the investigation of Tang Zhang's background, they found that he actually had a close relationship with people from the underworld in the ordinary balance. This was enough to explain why he was so unscrupulous in his actions, which made the military even more afraid to recruit him. Tang Zhang was not regretful. This was the result he had hoped for. After bidding farewell to the two leaders, he returned to Yenqing University with the others. Yenqing University prepared a grand military training summary and commendation ceremony. After the various student formations in the school were inspected, other than Tang Zhang, the other 19 people from the two classes went up to the stage to receive the award. Tang Zhang sat below the stage. He was not disappointed, nor was he dissatisfied. Instead, his heart was as calm as water, because the award was insignificant to him. He was silently digesting the gains from this trip to the valley. Without a doubt, the biggest gain was that he knew the miraculous use of the heaven-shocking bow and the dragon-trapped rope. The dragon-trapped rope was a profound-level magic treasure, and an offensive magic treasure at that. It was much more powerful than the War Soul sword, so how could he not be happy? However, the only thing that made his heart ache was that the War Soul sword was damaged, and he was afraid that he would not be able to unleash its power for a while. He urgently needed to go to a place with dense yin qi so that the War Soul sword could absorb it and recover its strength. Fortunately, the capital was an ancient city that had been passed down for hundreds of years, so it was not difficult to find a place with dense yin qi. Therefore, he prepared to ask Feng Yong about it later. This time, they returned in a hurry and were directly pulled to the commendation ceremony, so he did not have the time to bring Xiao Bai back. On the stage, Gao De was in high spirits. His harvest this time was also quite big. He had registered with the military and even showed his face in front of the school's leaders. More importantly, he had obtained that jade tablet. The high-grade cultivation technique written on it made him go wild with joy. However, he did not have the time to cultivate yet. After the commendation ceremony, he would start cultivating and strive to surpass Tang Zhang as soon as possible. He subconsciously looked towards the crowd and locked onto Tang Zhang from afar. The corner of his mouth could not help but curl up into a sneer. Tang Zhang, the glory that belongs to me is about to arrive. I will ruthlessly trample you under my feet, so that you will never be able to rise again. Sinosaurus and the others were not that happy. Although they had received the commendation, when they thought of Tang Zhang, they felt sad. Originally, this glory also belonged to Tang Zhang, but at the last moment, he was kicked out of the game. The other people who did not know what was going on looked at Tang Zhang with complicated gazes. Many of them were filled with disdain and ridicule. Back then, out of the 20 people, only Tang Zhang had obtained nothing. How could they not pay attention to him? After receiving the award and stepping down from the stage, the members of 502 gathered around Tang Zhang. Sinosaurus said indignantly, "OL3, if it wasn't for your advice, I wouldn't even bother to go up to receive this award." It's so King boring. Zhou Yan also nodded in agreement. Yes, when I saw that despicable Takashi's smug look, I felt very unhappy. Wang Shiji was slightly calm as he said, the one who laughs at the end is the true hero. I believe that OL3 will be the one who laughs at the end. Sinosaurus said, of course, who is our OL3? He's the most powerful person in 502. He can crush Takashi under him at any moment. Damn, don't make it sound so disgusting. I don't have that kind of hobby. Tang Zheng was very touched by his brother's words of justice and scolded with a smile. Zhou Yan chuckled, I believe that OL3 is definitely straight. Didn't you see how he and Yi Dingdang were flirting with each other? How could he be gay? Sinosaurus touched Tang Zheng's shoulder and said, OL3, tell me honestly, when we were on the mission, did anything happen between you and Yi Dingdang? Tang Zheng could not help but roll his eyes at him, and said, do you think I'm you? I'm a very upright person. That's right, it's because you're an upright person that I asked you if anything happened between you and her. If you were gay, I wouldn't even ask you this question. Sinosaurus said vulgarly. The other two also had cheap expressions on their faces as they stared at him without blinking. Tang Zheng said helplessly, hey, you two, don't be led astray by OL2, especially you, boss. You are such a simple child, you must not learn from him. Tisk, you've already taken Yi Dingdang away, and you're still pure my ass, so you don't have the qualifications to criticize me. Sinosaurus scoffed, sigh, a great beauty like Yi Dingdang is no longer mine. It seems like I can only find another target. Zhou Yan rolled his eyes and said, OL3, you're happy alone, but you can't forget us brothers. Yi Dingdang is from the School of Business and Management, so there must be a lot of beauties. How about we have a sorority with their dorm? When Sinosaurus heard this, he immediately said energetically, right, a sorority. There are a lot of beauties in the School of Business and Management, so we definitely can't let go of such a great opportunity. OL3, if you don't agree, then you'll be the public enemy of our entire dorm. Boss, you should also express your stance. Wang Shiji nodded with a serious expression, I agree with the organization's decision. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was too lazy to explain his relationship with Yi Dingdang, so he reluctantly agreed. Speaking of which, these people must have held back so much in high school that they couldn't help but be in heat once they entered university. After the commendation ceremony ended, Tang Zheng saw Yi Dingdang from afar, so he directly walked over. When the others saw this, they whispered to each other. How could this person be so thick-skinned? He didn't make any contributions, but he still had the nerve to look for Yi Dingdang. Those who originally thought highly of Tang Zheng instantly felt that he was a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Seeing Tang Zheng walking over, Yi Dingdang stopped in her tracks and smiled. With a bit of shyness and guilt, she said, I'm sorry that you didn't receive the commendation this time. I'm not interested in this kind of commendation. Tang Zheng said generously, I'm looking for you for something. Our dorm wants to have a sorority with your dorm. Sorority. Yi Dingdang was stunned for a moment, then immediately came to a realization and asked mischievously, what's wrong? Which beauty of my dorm have you taken a fancy to? Do you want me to pull some strings for you? Don't make fun of me, I already have a girlfriend. This is the idea of the other 3 people in my dorm. There are a lot of beauties in your workplace, so you can't let others take advantage of you. Tang Zheng said. Hearing him say that he had a girlfriend, Yi Dingdang's heart darkened. She had always thought that Tang Zheng wanted to step on 2 boats and be a modern-day Chen Shimi, so she didn't have a good impression of him. But now that she thought about it, from the beginning to the end, Tang Zheng didn't do anything inappropriate to her. In the beginning, she deliberately let Tang Zheng pretend to be her fiancé, so as to deceive Song Yu and Yi Xuanji. Later on, she took the initiative to propose the bet. So, all of this had nothing to do with Tang Zheng. It was her wishful thinking to put the blame on Tang Zheng's head. A woman's mind is really complicated. If you hate a person, you will subconsciously imagine that he is evil beyond redemption. You will even put a lot of unnecessary shortcomings on the other party. And changing your opinion of a person can also be because of a small matter. Tang Zheng never thought that because of this mission, his image in Yi Dingdang's mind would change so much. Chapter 285. Yi Dingdang looked at him with a burning gaze and said, "All right, I promise you. Don't worry, seeing that we are old classmates and comrades, I will definitely let them participate in the fellowship party. Then I will thank you on behalf of my 3 roommates." Tang Zheng said with a smile. Yi Dingdang smiled and had an idea. She blinked and said, "Since I've already promised you, then you should also display the spirit of helping others. Look at me, why don't you send me back to my dorm?" Tang Zheng saw that she was leaning on a cane, and it was indeed difficult for her to move. Moreover, she had just agreed to the fellowship party, so it was not good to refuse. "All right, I'll send you back to your dorm. Hold me for a while." Yi Dingdang stretched out a hand and placed it on Tang Zheng's shoulder. The gazes of the others were immediately attracted. Who knew how many boys wanted this honor? Just now, there was someone who wanted to escort her back, but was mercilessly rejected. Who would have thought that such a beautiful thing would be taken advantage of by Tang Zheng? Many people could not help but feel envious and jealous. Tang Zheng did not feel that this was a good job. After all, Yi Dingdang's contrast was too great. Being so gentle was not like her style, which made him feel a little vigilant. "Hold my waist." Yi Dingdang took the initiative to say. Tang Zheng was helpless. He could only hold her waist with one hand and let her other hand reach over his neck and rest on his other shoulder. The two's bodies were close to each other. It was the end of September, but the temperature in Beijing was still not low. The two of them were only wearing a thin camouflage uniform. This kind of intimate contact could even feel the temperature of each other's skin. Tang Zheng could clearly smell the scent on her body. At the same time, an endless stream of pure yin energy was transferred from Yi Dingdang's body to Tang Zheng's body. Since Tang Zheng's cultivation had improved, the speed at which he absorbed the pure yin energy had obviously increased a lot. However, he still couldn't store the pure yin energy in his dantian like that night with Lu Qingmei. This was something that Tang Zheng had tried for a long time but failed to do. That night, he had absorbed too much pure yin energy, even exceeding the consumption of pure yang energy in his body. That was why he was able to store it. Ever since Lu Qingmei quietly left, such a good thing had never happened again. Currently, the pure yin energy he absorbed was disappearing bit by bit in his meridians, neutralizing with the pure yang energy. During this period of time in the capital, his pure yang energy did not erupt, so for the time being, his life was not in danger. Tian Chanzi had once said that the pure yang energy would erupt like a geyser at the age of 20. That was the most dangerous time, which meant that he still had more than a year to accumulate enough pure yin energy to deal with the crisis at that time. The current situation was obviously not good. The pure yin energy could only neutralize the pure yang energy in his body. If his cultivation increased, he would need even more pure yin energy. He inadvertently glanced at Yi Dingdang, thinking that if Tian Chanzi was here, he would definitely encourage him to immediately take down Yi Dingdang. "Have I been very haggard recently?" Yi Dingdang saw him look at her and quickly asked. "No, why do you say that?" Tang Zheng was confused. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said, "You don't mean what you say. Even I can see it. Compared to before, you are much more haggard. Even walking this little bit is tiring. If you're tired, then rest." Tang Zheng said. "I want to go back to the dormitory to rest." Yi Dingdang had a flash of inspiration and said, "Why don't you carry me? This way I can go back to the dormitory earlier." Carry you?" Tang Zheng found it hard to believe that Yi Dingdang would take the initiative to make this suggestion. What's wrong with carrying an injured classmate? Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment. "Fine, I'll carry you. You're a woman and you're not afraid. If I'm a man and I'm afraid, then wouldn't I be a joke?" So, he squatted down and said, "Come on up." Yi Dingdang's lips curved into a smile. Her hands hooked around his neck, and her whole body lay on his back. Tang Zheng felt a soft body immediately come into close contact with his back. The breathtaking elasticity made his heart sway. This taste seems pretty good. Pick up my crutches and let's go. Yi Dingdang excitedly patted his shoulder and said. She didn't feel embarrassed lying on his back at all. After all, the two of them had already experienced the awkward and ambiguous scene in the bathroom. Yi Dingdang's mental endurance had also been trained. Moreover, her impression of Tang Jing had also undergone a drastic change. In short, Yi Dingdang was actually a decisive girl who dared to love and hate. The problems that she had been struggling with in the past were no longer problems. Tang Zheng was the hero in her heart. Tang Zheng carried her on his back. His left hand held the crutches, and his right hand hugged her springy butt to prevent her from sliding down. This scene really shocked everyone. The members of room 502 were dumbstruck. It was as if they had been immobilized. They only came back to their senses when they saw the two of them disappear. Sinosaurus shouted, "Damn, Lao San is the awesome one. Is this called hugging a beauty?" Wang Shiji shook his head and said seriously, "This is called carrying a beauty back." Zhou Yan hurriedly nodded his head. "Not only is Ol San skilled, even I am ashamed of my ability to pick up girls. Our archaeology department has been silent for so many years, and finally, an awesome person has appeared. When Ol San comes back, we have to ask him for advice on a few moves. When the fellowship party comes back, we can use these 18 kinds of martial arts to take down the beauty." Sinosaurus clenched his fists and said solemnly. Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji nodded their heads at the same time. What Lao Er said is true. Tang Zheng carried Yi Dingdang across half of the campus before arriving at the female dormitory. Along the way, he had gained a lot of attention. Of course, if he was carrying an average-looking girl on his back, he wouldn't have such a high number of people turning their heads. The key was that Yi Dingdang was simply too beautiful, and also very famous. The photo of Yi Dingdang speaking on behalf of the freshmen had already spread throughout the Yenqing University's forum. The Yenqing University's forum was much more famous than the Pingqing International School's forum, and there were a lot of visitors. Every year, the photos of the beautiful female freshmen would be uploaded to the forum, and this year, Yi Dingdang was the only one who stood out. Her beauty was impeccable, and the key was that the valiant and heroic spirit of wearing the military uniform was something that no one else could compare to. Although Ding Xiaowan was also very beautiful, it was the beauty of a small family, and could not be compared to Yi Dingdang. After a month of fermenting, all the students in the school had an impression of Yi Dingdang, especially those seniors. All of them were rubbing their fists and rubbing their palms, wanting to use their own plan to chase after the beauty and take Yi Dingdang into their arms. Unexpectedly, before they could even make a move, Yi Dingdang was actually carried around the campus by a brat. This gave them a tragic feeling of dying before they could even succeed. Yi Dingdang enjoyed those complicated gazes and snickered. Seeing Tang Jing struggling to move forward, he couldn't help but feel a sweet taste in his heart. This feeling was so good. This kind of sunlight was so good. This kind of campus life was so good. However, Tang Jing did not feel good. Even though he was thick-skinned, he was still distracted by those pairs of eyes that wanted to swallow him alive. Especially when they arrived at the female dormitory, the dormitory manager's vigilant gaze made him feel even worse. He wanted to put Yi Dingdang down, but she stopped him. What are you doing? I'm already at your dormitory. Then let's go upstairs. Tang Jing was shocked. We still have to go upstairs. Of course, it's not convenient for me to go upstairs. It's very troublesome for me to go upstairs. Just be a good person and carry me up. Yi Dingdang softly begged. AI, who told Tang Jing to be a guy who was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. Seeing that they were old classmates, he had to help. Stop. Seeing Tang Jing walk into the dormitory hall, the dormitory manager immediately came out with her hands on her hips and glared at him. This was her territory. No matter how capable Tang Jing was, he had to be restrained by her. What are you doing? The dormitory manager sternly asked. Sending her upstairs. Tang Jing replied. Female dormitory, boys are not allowed in. Can't you see? The dormitory manager pointed at the sign in the hall. I see, but she's injured so it's not convenient for her to walk. Look, isn't there a crutch here? Tang Jing quickly raised the crutch and explained. The dormitory manager's eyes were sharp, so of course she saw the crutch. Seeing that he answered so fluently and with a calm expression, she couldn't help but have a good impression of him. She said, but the female dormitory does not allow boys to go up. This is the rule. How can I break the rule for you? Tang Jing was helpless. He could only say to Yi Dingdang, then I can only send you up to here. Yi Dingdang would not give up just like that as she hurriedly squeezed out a sickly smile towards the auntie and weakly said, Auntie, just let him carry me up. I really can't walk anymore. Is he your boyfriend? No. Tang Jing quickly denied. Hang, if he's not my boyfriend, how can I let you go up? The dormitory manager firmly said. Yes, he is my boyfriend. He's just too embarrassed to admit it. Yi Dingdang quickly explained. The dormitory manager majestically nodded. Oh, since he's your boyfriend, then I can let you go up. But remember, you must come down quickly. Thank you, Auntie. Yi Dingdang was overjoyed. Tang Jing was confused. Why did he have this privilege just because he admitted to being her boyfriend? Yi Dingdang did not give him a chance to think. She quickly patted him on the shoulder and signaled him to quickly go upstairs. Seeing the two go upstairs, the dormitory manager's face revealed a smile. She muttered to herself, Auntie was once young. How can I not understand your thoughts? This beautiful girl clearly has feelings for that little handsome guy. It's just that she didn't expose him. Auntie can only help you up to here. Of course, Tang Jing did not know about the dormitory manager's painstaking efforts. He huffed and puffed as he climbed up to the third floor. Along the way, he met several girls who looked at Yi Dingdang enviously. To have a boyfriend carry her upstairs was truly a blessing. Yi Dingdang's lips curled up. She pointed to room 306 and said, We're here. She said as she opened the door. Tang Jing only saw a white figure. Then several screams rang out. With a bang, the door was fiercely slammed shut. Tang Jing actually did not see anything. He only heard a series of screams. Then his eyes were covered by Yi Dingdang's hands. What did you see? Yi Dingdang anxiously asked. I didn't see anything. I only heard screams. What happened? Tang Jing calmly replied. Yi Dingdang let out a sigh of relief and said, It's good that you didn't see anything. Creak. The door was opened from the inside, and 3 girls stood at the door, eyeing Tang Jing like a tiger eyeing its prey. The weather was already hot. They had been standing in the square formation for half a day. They were already tired and hot. So when they returned to the dormitory, they could not wait to take a shower. Then they wandered around the dormitory wearing only their underwear. They did not expect the door to suddenly be pushed open. A boy stood at the door. This almost scared the 3 girls out of their wits. Where did this boy come from in the girls' dormitory? Could it be a pervert? This thought flashed through their minds, and they instinctively slammed the door shut. Then, they quickly put on their clothes and opened the door aggressively. They wanted to see what kind of ambitious leopard dared to behave atrociously in the girls' dormitory. They did not expect that this person had not left yet. He stood at the door like a block of wood. When he saw the three of them, he even revealed a smile that he thought was brilliant. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.